Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. This is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2025 to the News Record and the Star Ledger in December of 2024, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Daffis. DeLuca.
Here.
Engel.
Here.
Sermon.
Here.
Mayor Adams.
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. And whereas it desires the governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee, Township Committee does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in deliberations of the governing body by the public, except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
DeLuca?
Yes.
Zengel?
Yes.
Sermon?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you don't mind, remain standing for a moment of silence. On January 14th of 2025, we proclaimed it to be Marilyn Schnarr's Day in the Township of Maplewood. She was to be moving to South Jersey after being a lifelong resident of South Orange and Maplewood. She was a Maplewood resident for 41 of her years. She was a Columbia High School graduate, a Maplewood pool member for 41 years, Maplewood Senior Club, Garden Club, trustee at Durant Hedden House, volunteer at Spring Egg Hunt, Maplewood 4th of July, Mayfest, National Night Out, and more. Along with that, she was a beloved member of the community. And the bittersweet part is that we were able to have a going away party for her, but this was not the reason she passed away. And we'd like to have a moment of silence. Thank you. So good evening and welcome to the March 18th meeting of the Maplewood Township Committee. We will have a special presentation and proclamations for Transgender Day of Visibility 2025, and also a proclamation for Rachel Crandall Crocker with a related proclamation. We don't have any board and committee appointments. We have 3 ordinances on for final passage. One of them, the first one, a zoning ordinance, we will be tabling or carrying. The second one we will be moving, and the third one we will carry also, and we'll give those reasons when we get to those ordinances. We have no ordinances on for introduction. We have administrative reports for Township Administrator Wary, Township Attorney Credidio, Township Clerk Fritzen, reports from elected officials, Committee Member Engel, Deputy Mayor Herman, Committee Member Daffis, Committee Member DeLuca, and then my report. We have 4 items on for discussion tonight. Ms. Engel will lead the discussion on Youth Advisory Committee changes, and then SOMA 2 Towns for All Ages discussion. Ms. Herman will lead the discussion for pool fees, and then we will have a discussion on the 2025 budget. We then have a consent agenda and then public comment on any subject matter. Sorry, I missed the public comment on agenda items only. That's right after our proclamations. So now we will proceed. So, Mr. Daffis, why don't you lead us off?
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to welcome everyone who has joined us tonight. It's nice to see
this level of participation for our honoring, celebrating, uplifting International Transgender Day of Visibility. As Maplewood's first queer elected representative, its first mayor, I'm really honored that we are taking a little bit of extra time today to gather, to give space, to raise awareness, to stand up, to speak out, to honor, and to celebrate. And we have a very special guest with us tonight online, the creator of the International Transgender Day of Visibility, the one and only Rachel Crandall Crocker, and you will hear some words from Rachel. And as the mayor mentioned, we have a very special proclamation honoring her as well. So the way this is going to go is I'm going to go down to the podium. I invite those who want to help us read the proclamation, the Transgender Day of Visibility proclamation, to join me at the podium. After that, the mayor will lead us through the special honor for Rachel Crandall Crocker. Then we will allow Rachel an opportunity to say a few things as she wishes. And then we will go into our public comment period. And since this is on the agenda, we will invite those of you who are present who wish to say a few things in honor of this important occasion. And then we will allow the same for those who have joined us online, and welcome to all of you as well. It is truly important in this moment in time, with the injustices, the assaults against our transgender youth in particular, and our non-binary youth in particular, to speak up, to stand up, to say that we stand in solidarity, to unequivocally say that we are against the hate and the violence and the injustice that is surrounding us. Even here in New Jersey, in progressive New Jersey, even in progressive spaces, even when I speak to some legislators who have been our allies through the years to the LGBTQ plus community, there is a resistance to stand up. And we cannot let that stand. We will not forget our transgender community members behind. They were the ones who led our community's liberation and equality, and we need to stand with them in this very difficult moment. And our doing this tonight is important, and we will also, on the actual day of International Trans Day of Visibility, have a rally right outside. It's next Monday night, the 31st. Look out in social media for more information about that in the coming day or two. So with that, I'm going to go to the podium, and I welcome those members from the community who have joined us tonight to join me there. Can you see all of us there online there, Deputy Clerk? A lot? Yeah, everything is good? All right. Excellent. So I'm going to let the members of the community who are with us lead us in the reading of our Transgender Day of Visibility proclamation. I ask that each member of the community identify themselves. You're here to be visible, be proud. Let us know why you're here, why this is important to you, and lead us through our Transgender Day of Visibility proclamation. We're going to start with our very own Shannon Cuttle. Shannon.
Thank you, Committeeman Daffis. My name is Shannon Cuttle. My pronouns are they and them. Had the honor of serving on South Orange Maplewood Board of Education as first vice president. The honor of wearing and doing many hats in our town, and also being the first openly known trans non-binary elected official in the state of New Jersey. And this is a Transgender Day of Visibility proclamation. We'll start it off. Whereas in 2009, Rachel Crandall Crocker, executive director and co-founder of Transgender Michigan, organized the first recognized Transgender Day of Visibility to uplift trans and non-binary trailblazers, history, and in resilience. And whereas we raise the names of recent trailblazers, such as Sarah McBride, the first openly transgender member of the United States Congress, as well as those etched in history, such as Stonewall trailblazers Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, who accelerated the early gay rights and trans liberation movements. And we continue to keep the name of New Jersey's own Babs Zipperstein, who was a foundational and transformative force to New Jersey's LGBTQ plus civil rights laws, and for whom the state law allowing transgender and non-binary persons to change their gender marker without proof of gender assignment is named after. And
good evening, folks. I'm Joan Howlett, a transgender elder, I suppose, here in the community. I also have a transgender granddaughter who goes to Tuscan School. And I'm very happy to be here tonight. I guess I'm going to steal a few more minutes to just talk a little bit about transgender in the military, because that has been attacked in the last week by Secretary Hegseth, as well as Donald Trump. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and no, I wasn't some big hulking guy when I was in the Army. Served a combat tour. Sorry, thank you. In Vietnam, and was in there for 4 years before I got out. So I think that what's going on in our country is a disservice to all of the active duty military, enlisted and officers who are serving today. Basically, they've all been told they don't have any jobs, and it's certainly a disservice to other veterans like me who served either openly, or back when I was in, you weren't open or you would have been out. There was you were actually court-martialed for it, but I'll leave that as another story for another day. Whereas transgender and non-binary persons have always existed and will continue to exist, our existence cannot be erased, our history will not be erased, and whereas while we honor the resilience and history made by those who etched themselves into the zeitgeist, we must also call out attempts to erase, misinform, or to legalize discrimination against the trans community. We condemn all forms of anti-trans rhetoric and at all levels, from the White House, across the country, and throughout New Jersey among elected officials here who seek to shame, marginalize, and erase trans existence from our collective history, resulting in fear, bullying, and violence, and
Hi, everyone. Denise Hines. I am a South Orange resident. I've lived in South Orange for about 20 years now, and I am the board chair of the Newark LGBT Community Center, and I'm also the director and co-founder of the Newark LGBT Film Festival, which is going into its 3rd year. This evening and this proclamation means a tremendous amount to me as a lesbian, but also as an ally to my trans brothers and sisters. And I'm proud to be able to stand here and read part of it. So where am I here? Whereas in the Township of Maplewood, we will not rob transgender or non-binary persons of their light or existence. We will not tolerate or ignore injustice against them. And whereas in the Township of Maplewood, our transgender and non-binary community is welcomed, accepted, celebrated, beloved, and protected. And we stand together in solidarity with the entire LGBT plus community.
Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Dean Daffis, Maplewood Township Committee member, on behalf of our mayor, Mayor Nancy Adams, and the rest of my colleagues of the Maplewood Township Committee, do hereby proclaim March 31st as Transgender Day of Visibility in the Township of Maplewood, and reaffirm our commitment stated in Resolution 351-23 that the Township of Maplewood is a sanctuary for transgender and non-binary persons and is committed to equal, respectful, and dignified treatment and acceptance of all people, regardless of their gender identity, gender expression, or their sexual orientation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daffis, and thank you to those of you who shared with us your stories and for your advocacy and work on this issue. I'm honored to read the proclamation honoring Rachel Crandall Crocker. Whereas Rachel Crandall Crocker has dedicated her life to advocating for the rights, resilience, and visibility of transgender and LGBTQ+ individuals. And whereas, as the executive director and founder of Transgender Michigan, she has worked tirelessly to create safe spaces, provide essential resources, and uplift the transgender community in Michigan and beyond. And whereas her work in the early transgender movement, including foundational efforts with Motor City Pride and organizing support groups across Michigan, has helped lay the groundwork for the progress seen today in the LGBTQ+ rights and protections. And whereas her leadership and activism have played a crucial role in advancing protections for LGBTQ+ Michiganders under Governor Whitmer's administration and have inspired activists across the nation, including Maplewood and South Orange's Shannon Cuddle, who continues to carry her legacy forward. And whereas Rachel is the visionary founder of International Transgender Day of Visibility, observed annually on March 31st, which has grown into a globally recognized day of empowerment and awareness for transgender individuals. And whereas alongside her wife, Susan Crocker, they have given back to the community for decades as licensed social workers, advocating for justice, equity, and mental health support for transgender individuals, including by starting the Transgender Michigan Helpline, the first transgender-specific helpline in the United States. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Mayor Nancy Adams, on behalf of the Maplewood Township Committee, do hereby recognize and honor Rachel Crandall Crocker for her unwavering commitment to transgender visibility, advocacy, and empowerment. Her contributions have transformed countless lives, over 1.6 million transgender individuals in the U.S. alone, and her legacy will continue to inspire future generations in the ongoing fight for equality and justice. Furthermore, March 18th, 2025 shall be recognized as Rachel Crandall Crocker Day in the Township of Maplewood in celebration of her lifelong dedication to the transgender community, her groundbreaking advocacy and activism, and her tireless efforts to create a more inclusive and just world for all.
Yeah.
Keep coming on. Is she on? Yes? Okay. Patrick, could you move her over?
Yes, you would just, if you want to be seen, have to turn on the camera.
That's fine.
Yeah.
We welcome any remarks.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, can't hear
Unmute
you.
yourself as well.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay,
Welcome, Ms. Crocker.
thank you.
Yeah, I'm inviting you to say a few words, and I hope you heard the whole proclamation we just read.
Oh, I did.
Okay, great.
Thank you, everyone. I am honored. When I created the Day of Visibility in 2009, I created it as a way to bring everyone together all over the world. And so, as a community, we wouldn't have to be lonely and helpless anymore. And I believe that this year it's more important than ever. I share the Day of Visibility with everyone, everywhere. And I thank Maplewood for recognizing me.
Thank you so much for all your hard work. I'm sure it wasn't an overnight success.
Oh,
And it's ongoing, as committee member Daffis was talking about earlier. The fight continues and is even more important in the times we are now due to this current administration who seems to be fixated on dividing rather than uniting. So thank you. I welcome if you have any other words you'd like to say. Otherwise, we're going to get on with our meeting and you don't have to stay unless you want to.
I'm all done.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Okay, and that brings us to our first public comment on agenda items only. So if there's anyone in the room who would like to come up, please identify yourself, your address, and you have 3 minutes to speak. And just make sure you're talking right into the microphone. So if any others want to line up against the wall over there, that way you can come right up when it's your turn. All right, welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dino Biolopoliak. I'm a resident of Maplewood for now about 8-9 years. And first of all, I do want to start and recognize our members of our community, transgender community, and I want to express my full support for for the proclamation. And quite frankly, I think it doesn't do enough. I think that's just the beginning, and it is very important for us to recognize people who are here and those who are not here, and as well as the Miss Crocker who appeared via Zoom. However, I do want to point out something that's been bothering me very much. And again, that has nothing to do, and again, what I want to point out is while I 100%, 200% support LGBT community, transgender community, I find it hypocritical of this council, a township council, to talk about us today, about visibility, about recognition, about voice, and this council, yet this council has never, ever recognized the main human rights issue that is appearing in today's world. That is genocide in Gaza. What I do want to tell everybody here is that when I first moved to Maplewood, Maplewood has proclaimed itself to be a free town, respecting a progressive town that's for everybody. Yet that turned out to be a lie. And I say that a lie, even though it's a very strong word. I say that because it's true. This council, council has recognized on at least 2 occasions the atrocities that occurred on October 7. And I 100% condemn any type of violence against civilians and innocent and children and elderly. Make no mistake about it. However, I cannot stay silent to the abomination, to disgust that I feel with the members of this council, quite frankly, that you not one time did not recognize the children that we see who are being blown up by our tax money. And why am I emotional about this issue? I'm a survivor of genocide. When I was 15 years old, I was in 1995. I grew up and I lived in Bosnia during the genocide there. I have moved to Maplewood, moved to United States later in my life, and I was hoping that I will find a place in Maplewood where people who suffer atrocities, the worst possible atrocities that a humankind had committed against another human being, will be recognized, will be visible, their voice will be heard. And yet, that did not happen. Instead, this council has several times supported members of the IDF who are members of the genocidal army, which is recognized as such by the most distinguished Israeli genocide scholars, such as Omer Bartov, such as also like Professor Jeff Melnick, such as numerous Holocaust survivors. When I was very young, I even had the opportunity to be invited at the Anne Frank Museum in Amsterdam, where I spoke together with a couple of Holocaust survivors about my experience as a 15-year-old boy. And while I was there, I visited multiple sites. I visited most of the concentration camps in Europe. My uncle has been kidnapped by the Nazis when he was 15 years old, and only by chance escaped the execution at that young age. So I'm no stranger to pain. I'm no stranger to suffering, but I am not going to stay silent, and I cannot stay silent to what I believe to be a deep hypocrisy of this council, and quite frankly, many members of the Maplewood community who find no reason, who find no strength, no willingness to recognize the human suffering of brown children. Brown children apparently do not matter to this council and to this town. And while I support the members here, community, I want to make sure that everybody here knows that Maplewood is not a town that claims to be. It is a hypocritical, appalling, and quite frankly, disgusting presentation of the worst hypocrisy that is existing in our country. And just to finish, what happenings today in this country with Trump administration, make no mistake, once we tolerate genocide, everything else is going to be tolerated. And do not think for a moment that anybody is going to come to save us from Trump, for what's coming with Trump administration. This is just the beginning, what we're seeing, and it's not going to, unfortunately, end there. I'm going to finish, and I thank you. And I want to tell you that I will make sure that none of you ever get my vote again. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the timer started a little late that time. Let's not forget. Okay, sorry, your turn.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah.
My name is Rose Griffiths, and I am a resident of Maplewood for 20 years. Unfortunately, this is my first. Anyway, I spoke to Mayor Adams last year. Mayor, I don't know if you remember me. I don't think you, because I spoke on the phone. And you referred me to the division of housing and community and development. It's pertaining to some Atlantis. I have four Atlantis 3 at the side of my garage, where I said I want to remove because those are very highly invasive trees that have those spotted fly. You know, those flies, spotted Atlantis flies, the flies them. And one of them pursued come right through the garage.
Right.
Break the foundation
Mhm.
and come right through. And right now, my garage is in disarray because it's break the whole building and come through. And I was looking, I'm a senior, I'm
Mhm.
looking some help. But my income that I get every month, my social security is not enough to, cover my expense because as you know, I have to pay it for everything here.
Mhm.
And I just looking some help to remove those 4 trees. And those are very, 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 what they call it, invasive, trees that need, that I think they said at one point, the city, removed them. But everywhere I go, I call this place that Mayor told me about, they say they don't do trees. They don't do it.
Okay.
So I-
Could- Yeah, could you leave your name and number with the clerk, Ms. Fritzen? And I'll discuss it internally and get back to you this week. Okay, you're very welcome.
Thing is with the garbage. Is there any senior with the garbage?
With
Because
garbage.
we have to pay,
Ah,
waste management and they charge us by the can. And can the city do something to help, senior?
we've recently gotten complaints just recently, especially since Waste Industries actually raised their prices by about 50% or something just last month. But I think we can talk about it internally and see if there's any powers that we have of influence with those companies or not, or whether there's anything we can do about it. And we'll probably talk about it at Engineering, Public Works and Planning Subcommittee that's chaired by Mr. DeLuca. See if there's anything.
The garbage pan has to be a certain size and it can hold so much.
Right, right.
Let's do something.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, has my time started?
Has the time started? Just.
My name is Abigail King. I'm a new resident of Maplewood.
Welcome.
My wife and I just moved here in January, just paid property taxes for the first time.
It's always fun.
Welcome.
We do the
but-
same thing.
Yeah, but we're very glad to be here, and I wanted to speak in regards to the proclamation of Transgender Day of Visibility. I wanted to express my joy and my gratitude. In this country, we often use the phrase inalienable rights, but it really turns out those rights are quite alienable if they're not taken care of. People of my generation, I think many of us would never have expected to see Roe v. Wade overturned. Speaking for myself, not to age myself, but I've lived in a time when only things have gotten better. There are plenty of things to fix, but I saw the removal of sodomy statutes and gay marriage becoming the law of the land and all of these things, and don't ask, don't tell being repealed, and it just seemed like things were going to keep going. But that wasn't something happening by inertia. That was something happening by the concerted efforts of activists, of devoted public servants, and of an electorate that continued to believe that that was important. And it was opposed by those who love wickedness and inequity, or who are greatly mistaken, and who have pushed back against greater equality and flourishing. And I'm grateful to now be living in a place where we lift each other up and allow ourselves to be ourselves and to be visible and not have to hide, not have to act like we aren't who we are. And so I'm so very grateful to be in this town and to see this, having moved from a place where I don't think there will be a proclamation for transgender day visibility, to one where I feel safe and welcomed and like I'm a proper member of a community. So thank you for your labor and thank you for your work, and thank you to this town.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
and welcome.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Daniel Gosling. I've been a resident of South Orange and Maplewood for 12 years, I guess Maplewood for about 5 years. I'm here to honor and speak loudly for the rights of transgender people everywhere. I simply want to state into the record tonight that 4 of the 5 council members in front of us are publicly and vocally supporting and asking all of us to support a candidate for governor, Mikey Sherrill, who voted for the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, which included anti-trans policies which strip trans-affirming healthcare from children of service members. The hypocrisy I've seen tonight in doing both of the things, standing for trans people and asking us to stand for to vote for a candidate who supports anti-trans policies, is astounding. I want to thank the man who spoke first for speaking so much truth and honesty from his own lived experience, and in honor of my own relatives of Irish descent, and in honor of St. Patrick's Day, Free Palestine.
Is there anyone else who would like to come to the mic to speak? Confusing as a lot of people get them. We're on agenda items. Yes, that's a really good point. Thank you. Got a little taken aback. Okay. Excuse me, corrected by one of our attendees. So this is for agenda items only, and then we have another public comment on any item. Yes. Go ahead. Please introduce yourself.
I'm a resident of Maplewood. I want to thank you for the proclamation tonight. As the parent of a transgender child, we had to make the choice to move to Maplewood in order to feel like our child could be safe. When they were in first grade and dressed up for Halloween to go trick-or-treating as a princess, because we raised them in a non-gendered household, our neighbors in our former community refused to give them candy because I let my then boy dress as a girl. And I said, we need to move somewhere where our child's going to be affirmed and safe, and where we're going to be able to raise them to be their true selves. And so we did come to Maplewood 12 years ago, and our child was welcomed immediately into this community and affirmed. And it's been an amazing, positive experience for her. But I do also recognize the hypocrisy that others are bringing up. I too have asked this council many times to affirm and liberate all children everywhere, including the children of Palestine, like the first man said, and do think that none of us are free if one of us isn't free. And we do look for this council to start to lead in these other areas. We teach our kids to apply their principles consistently to every situation, and they do that, and we're so proud of them. And our daughter wouldn't be as strong as she is if she didn't have a strong sense of self and strong principles. And that's what I'm asked this council to do for all children everywhere.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the house want to speak during public comment? Mr. Ware, is there anyone online?
I'm now moving over Lauren to public portion. Lauren, welcome to public portion. You may unmute yourself and address the committee.
Good evening, Mayor Adams. Good evening, Maplewood Township Committee. I'm Lauren Albrecht. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm calling in from Garden State Equality, New Jersey's largest LGBTQ rights organization. First, I would like to thank you for what you've done here tonight, and also for allowing us and bringing in Rachel. It's the first time I've ever heard her speak and, seen her in person, having known her work for a very long time. So thank you for that opportunity. I want to also thank the other commenters for raising some, I think, really salient points about equity. For what I will say and what I think is important for me to speak to other allies about, myself not a member of the transgender non-binary community, but as an LGBTQ person and an ally to the trans community, proclamations are good, a great start. Maplewood has always been the forefront of LGBTQ inclusivity, and I'm grateful for that. It is up to us to continue the work of true and lived equality and equity, and mostly safety, I think, which is my big point here. Proclamations are a good starting point and may signal to people in the outside world that this is a place of safety and inclusivity, and that, don't come here with your hatred and your nonsense. But at the end of the day, the safety of our trans and non-binary community is up to us to protect. And that is an act. That is not a proclamation. That is a verb. That is an active act at all times. And so I hope that if we're here and we're doing this and we're observing this proclamation, we're also considering every single day how we can make life more safe for our trans and non-binary population, as well, mostly for our trans and non-binary students. I think that's probably concludes my remarks. And again, thank you for having me. And again, thank you for putting this forward and opening the discussion and having this public forum in which people can share these thoughts. And I also want to thank specifically Shannon Cuddle, a hero of mine. Y'all are lucky to have Shannon in Maplewood, South Orange. And I wish my town had a Shannon Cuddle. So thank you to Shannon for always speaking up and always, and never backing down. Thanks all.
Thank you. We don't disagree with you on your Shannon Cuddle point. We are grateful. Mr. Ware, is there anyone else?
Yes, promoting Reginald Bledsoe to panelist. Welcome to public portion. You may unmute yourself and address the committee.
Good evening, committee. Thank you, Mayor Adams, Deputy Mayor Herman, Committeeman Daffis. As always, I'm here on behalf of the county of Essex, on behalf of our county executive. I don't have my camera on because I'm actually mobile at the moment, but I want to thank you all for your leadership. Time and time again, it is the Township of Maplewood that is leading the way for the rest of Essex County. And time again, we can always count on your allyship and advocacy in this space for the LGBTQ community, but specifically for our trans and non-binary population. As always, we appreciate you. We will be putting something together special for Rachel Crandall Crocker, just acknowledging all of her hard work and the hard work that she continues to do all the way from Michigan. As always, we thank Shannon for their leadership and wisdom and making sure that they continue to hold our feet to the fire and making sure that we're uplifting our trans and non-binary community members and that we're not forgetting those who've paved the way for all of us. Right now, we are in some interesting times. And as Committeeman Daff has mentioned, there are folks who want to erase the T that is a part of the acronym of the LGBTQ community, but we will not let that happen. We continue to echo that our diversity is our strength here in Essex County, and that includes the members of the trans community. So again, as always, thank you for inviting us and opening your platform for us to address you all and continue to lead the way. Thank you again. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Anyone else in Zoom would like to speak on agenda items, please raise your hand now. See no hands, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our ordinances on final passage.
Yes, Mayor. On final passage, we're at number 8. Ordinance on final passage, ordinance number 3144-25. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 271 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Zoning and Development Regulations with respect to the Research and Office Zoning District. This ordinance will amend Article 5, zoning provisions of Chapter 271 of the Township Code to eliminate the Research and Office, RO, zoning district, and to include the subject property in the Highway Business HB zoning district.
Madam
It-
Mayor,
Let me just do the
Make the
statement.
statement.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law.
Madam Mayor, this particular ordinance also requires mailed notice. There is additional mailed notice which needs to be circulated with respect to one of our neighboring communities. Therefore, at this time, the Township Committee, if it wishes, should consider a motion to carry this ordinance and its second reading and public hearing to a date certain of April 15th. Carrying it to a date certain will mean that no additional notice will be published or provided.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to that effect, Mr. Daffis?
Yes, Mayor, I will move that we carry ordinance 3144-25 to the April 15th meeting.
I'll second. Ms. Fritzen?
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Engel?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Adam?
Yes, thank you. Next ordinance, Mr.
Yes, Mayor, also on final, ordinance number 3147-25 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 53 of the Township Code entitled Environmental Advisory Committee. This ordinance amends the current Environmental Advisory Committee ordinance to reflect changes in the number of committee members, promote diversity within the committee, and clarify the election of committee leadership.
I move this ordinance to be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I second.
Mayor Hearing, please.
Sorry, I was just going to say I didn't do the statement.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. The ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board, of the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. The ordinance has been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Okay, you have
We
the
need to
hearing
hear
now?
Oh, the hearing, right. I thought I was catching up on everything. Mr. Wary, could you see if there's anyone online and if there's anyone in the room who would like to speak to this ordinance? The hearing for that is open now.
If anyone joining on Zoom would like to speak on this ordinance, please raise your hand now. I see no hands, Mayor.
Thank you. No one in the room either, so,
Okay, so now it's been moved and seconded, so now we'll take a vote
yep.
for final. Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes, thank you. The last ordinance on for final, Ms. Fritzen?
Yes, Mayor. Item 8C, ordinance number 3148-25. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 271 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Zoning and Development Regulations with respect to uses in the commercial and industrial zoning district. This ordinance will amend Section 271-70F of the Township Code to add permitted and accessory uses in the commercial and industrial CI zoning district.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. I'd like to move that this ordinance be carried as well because it needs to go before planning board, whose last meeting was canceled, and we need to give them time to look at this. So I postpone it to the April 15th.
Second.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes. All right. Now we'll move to administrative reports. We'll start with administration. Mr. Wary.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item, New Jersey American Water met with us last week to discuss their lead service line replacement. Typically, over the past few years, they had been doing their lead service line replacement ahead of our municipal paving program. And they're working towards the requirement to replace any lead or galvanized service before 2031. Your water service is the portion between the water main and the meter inside of your house. And they'd like to change how they focus on Maplewood. Instead of doing these upgrades only ahead of our paving, they would like to come into Maplewood beginning next month and replace any current lead or galvanized service line. Maplewood has 7,000 approximately total service lines in town. 2,000 of those are known to be non-lead. 2,000 are known to contain lead, and 3,000 are unknown. So it's quite a bit of work that they have to do to replace the 2,000 that are known to be lead and the 3,000 that are unknown. The unknown ones, they at least have to test pit and identify if they're lead or not. So they want to begin, like I said, working next month. They would have 4 crews in the township, each working in different areas. Each crew would take up approximately a block at a time. It's a big operation. So you're talking about a couple trucks, a backhoe, an excavator, box truck, that are required to do this work that would require road closure. So it's a very big endeavor. The benefit is they could finish all of these around the end of this year. They're hoping before the end of the year, but depending on how many unknowns that are identified to be lead, it could be extended into next year. We are, like I said, we just found out about this last week, but they want to begin as soon as possible. So we are planning a public meeting for April 2nd at 7:30. It will be hybrid, so it will be like these township committee meetings, broadcast on Zoom, as well as here in person. We have started to work with New Jersey American Water's communications team to get information out to the public. So our residents, in addition to the invitation for the April 2nd meeting, will begin to see information from us and from New Jersey American Water about this lead service line replacement program. And New Jersey American Water will also be going door to door for affected homes to drop off information. And so the township committee and residents can look forward to more information from us over the coming weeks about this program.
Okay, and will the residents who are affected be notified separately and by mail, or everything's just-
Likely with handouts that they'll go door to door, and
how far in
ideally they
advance
would look to
of the
speak with
work?
residents. Or in the beginning, they're just going to be doing test pitting, so it would affect residents to the extent that there'll be a crew in front of their home digging around the curb box, usually the area between the sidewalk and the curb. So it won't affect their water service. It likely won't have a large impact on the street. And we will work to get, New Jersey American Water will work to give those residents advance notice. And then if it's identified, there'll be continued contact with those residents to let them know when the replacement will take place, because that requires a lot more disruption of service. It's the replacement of the line. They would likely be in the house. They're going to give you instructions on how to flush water from after the repair is made. And there's protocols to be followed after the replacement is made. So those residents will have a lot of contact with American Water. We're also working with them on making sure that the information they distribute is in languages that have become common in Maplewood, and New Jersey American Water is partnering with us on making those notices in multiple languages.
Okay, so there's going to be an opportunity for an evening on, April 2nd to just talk about this, to get a full overview by New Jersey American, and to be able to ask questions at that meeting.
That's right.
Okay, Mr. DeLuca.
Okay.
I have 2 questions. These numbers, do they include commercial, or is it just residential?
This is everybody.
Everybody. Okay, so
yes, it includes commercial.
all right. So we might want to reach out to the 2 special improvement districts so that they can share that with their members. And the other thing is, we have had situations when New Jersey American changes things, they end up putting a rather large cap to replace what's generally considered a small cap, about the size of a softball. This now becomes the size of a pretty big Frisbee. We've had problems where they haven't been able to put that in the berm between the sidewalk and the curb, so it ends up going on the property side of the sidewalk. So on the second, we ought to make sure they speak about that, so we're completely clear about what they might do and how that might impact someone's property.
My, go ahead.
Started to talk to them about not that specific problem, but about their separate effort to move all the water meters out of the house and onto the curb, which is what
that was.
Larger pit at the curb. And we're getting more information about that, that to your point, will be presented at the same time.
Mr. Daffis?
Yeah, so I'm an optimistic person, so I'd like to have some faith that New Jersey American Water is going to give advance notice and plan this methodically. But I have reservations about that. This is a massive project, and it's going to go on for months into next year, possibly, as you noted. Do we have an idea of where in town they want to start? Is there a plan so that when we bring folks together to the public meeting on the 2nd, we can say this section of Maplewood first, this section of Maplewood second, and so on and so forth?
They haven't developed that yet, but that was a conversation that the engineer and I had with New Jersey American Water. They understand the sections that we already have in town. We asked them if they would work off of those sections because they're common to our residents, and also to make sure they're choosing sections so that, you know, we roll this out with both the benefit and the impact spread throughout town. So likely they'll have 2 crews working in one section and 2 crews in another section, and that's how they'll proceed through. And then weekly, they will be providing us and the residents, and likely will also be providing residents, a 1-week look ahead for where they are going to be. A lot of this is currently to be determined because 3,000 of these potentially 5,000 service lines to be replaced are not known what the material is yet. So that means test pitting, and not until they test pit will they know if that line has to be replaced. The test pitting is relatively straightforward. A service line replacement takes a lot more time. So they don't know. And that's one of the reasons why they hope to be out of here by the end of the year, but they're not sure because they just don't know how many lead service lines they're going to have to replace. The difference between 2,000 and 5,000, as you could expect, has a great impact on their operation. But to your original question, yes, that's something that the engineer and I will continue, and the public information officer will continue to work with them on finding out where they are, where they're going to be next, and relaying that to the public.
Great. And my second concern is about, so they're going to do the prep work first, and then eventually they'll get started in replacing the actual lines. Are we going to make sure that that work aligns with our road program?
The work to be done in anticipation of our paving is a separate contract from American Water with separate contract, which is good because they already know where we're paving this year, and that work is going to be, at least on American Water side, handled separately. On our side, we want it to look the same so it's easy for our residents to understand. But that means, yes, that work will be done in advance of our paving program this year.
Okay, because we've had situations where the public utility came in and ripped up newly paved road.
That's part of their job.
And
They do that everywhere.
Yeah.
And I expected they've already been for a few years doing these replacements ahead of paving, right? So hopefully any road that they have to open will already be maybe 3 to 5 years from paving in the worst case scenario. But we have a moratorium on those roads, which means that if they do choose to open them, they have more work to be done to replace what was existing, right? So they can't just patch it with
It's got to go center.
a boxed out repair with a patch on top of it. They would likely do, depending on what the road looks like and where they're replacing, they may do center line to curb repavement. They might do whole curb to curb replacement. They might do replacement where they bring in a special machine that heats up all the asphalt around the repair and blends it together. That's a responsibility of the township engineer. The township engineer has already started to explain all of this to American Water, and it's what they expect. It's no different than our typical operation.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. is this the same work that they've done already before with, and, well, first let me back up. When you say like lead lines, so I feel like when we do communications, we should do a health angle of it as well, because you hear lead lines and you get worried about your drinking water. And I was asking if this is the same work they've done before, because I remember that the literature about what's safe to drink, what's not safe to drink wasn't given out in advance or known. And we already know 2,000 lines are lead, and we don't want to like call attention and make like a brouhaha, but I'm just wondering about this health angle to make our residents feel comfortable that what they have right now is not, I mean, I don't know, it's not, but not affecting what they're drinking, and then what happens next? Could we have they already know, so if we have a clear outline of like what happens with the water after?
In terms of what's known to residents, New Jersey American Water has a website. You can go on, put in your address, and it will tell you as much as they know about your lead service line, or excuse me, as much as they know about your service line. So if the portion between your house and the curb box is known to be lead or galvanized, they'll identify that. If it's known to be non-lead or galvanized, they'll identify that. Same thing with between the curb box and the meter and the main. And if it's unknown, they'll identify that as well. And residents, they've also been doing some mailings over at least the last year with some information about, what to do if you have a lead service line. So that some of that information is already known. If you as a resident don't know it, you should go on New Jersey American Water's website to find out. If you Google New Jersey American Water lead service line replacement program, it'll bring up a website that they have dedicated just to this. This is information that we'll start to put out to the public. It has FAQs. It has information about what happens and with the replacement. And then to your second question about getting information to residents as they do these programs, last year was Maplewood was the first town that New Jersey American Water had started to deliver pitchers to people who had their line replaced. That was a new federal requirement. And I know that caused a lot of confusion. We've discussed this with New Jersey American Water. They've learned a lot from us and also with other municipalities that they've worked in the meantime. And they have they say a smoother rollout for what that looks like and also why that pitcher is required. And that's information that we'll get from them and start to share with our residents, and we'll make sure that it's addressed at that April 2nd meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, probably should have a separate page on the website.
On
Page
our
on the
website, we will. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was just going to make sure that the meeting is going to be recorded, so people who aren't
Yeah,
there.
that's why.
And then secondly, I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of questions from residents that they may not, so if they can't make it to the meeting, I want to make sure that we provide a way for residents to send in questions either before the meeting or after the meeting or just during this whole process.
Yeah, absolutely. And anything on our website will be done mostly pointing people to New Jersey American Water and providing their resources, getting questions and asking those questions to New Jersey American Water. They're the experts on this. They're the ones responsible for the system and for this replacement. We want to do everything we can to advocate for our residents and to make sure that this is done with as little impact as we can. And we had the option of having them come into town right away. So this is a big undertaking. It will be disruption to our residents, but the benefit is we get these replaced now. They could have maybe not done some residents until 2031, right? And so, we're really working with them for the benefit of our residents.
Yes, and based on our past experience last year, we'll be very forward-thinking as far as keeping on top of them, whether by our engineer for our roads or through our health officer and getting information out and our PIO.
And coordinating with, our Nixle alerts that there's road closures or,
Yeah.
this kind of thing. I mean, like
Yeah.
this morning, the majority of Ridgewood Avenue was closed off, no Nixle. I mean, so we got to do better about that. And I know that that's because we probably got very little notice, if any notice about, it was PSC&G that was on Ridgewood Avenue earlier today. So anyway, these things happen. We understand big utility, but these are the things that we want to see administration stay on top of.
Yeah.
I just want to note, I went to that website, I Googled what you said, Mr. Wary, and it says there's actually also a self-reporting option. You can watch a video, follow step-by-step instructions, send a picture.
Yeah,
So
it's a little
perhaps
video.
that's something that might help with the 3,000 unknown.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially the portion that is on the
Right,
piece
and
between
shows you how to
the
look
meter.
in your
Yeah,
basement.
exactly. And New Jersey American Water is looking for help in that area. because the more we can identify before they start digging, the
The less
quicker
they'll
this
have to
work will
dig.
go and with the least disruption.
Okay.
Perhaps we can do a tip Tuesday or something.
All right. Do you have anything else, Mr. Wary, from
Just
your
one other item
department?
on tonight's agenda, we are hiring a public health nursing supervisor. So welcome to Suzette Gale.
Okay.
That is all. Thank you, Mayor.
Big shoes to fill.
Any other questions for Mr.
Very
Wary?
big shoes.
Okay, seeing none, we'll go to Township Attorney Credidio. I like it. All right, Township Clerk. Oh, anybody have any questions for our attorney? Okay, Township Clerk Fritzen.
Yeah, a couple things, Mayor. So, I just want to report mostly for the public, Township Committee already knows this, that, since our last meeting, we received approval from the commissioners of the Essex County Board of Elections to move our polling site from Columbia High School back to Clinton School. And that's for Maplewood districts 4, 10, 16, and 22. Again, it was the township's recommendation that we do that, and we did receive approval. So I know it's a little bit early, but, you know, I want to bring it up for the public, and we'll certainly, on our end and also the county's end, we'll do a lot of notification to the public in those 4 districts.
Right, yeah.
And then one more thing. We have a deadline on Monday at 4 p.m. for petitions for Maplewood Township Committee. And the Township Clerk's office will close at 4 p.m. on Monday, March 24th. That is the last time for petition filing for the June 10th primary. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for our clerk? Nope, seeing none, we'll move to elected officials. Committee Member Engel.
Thank you. For the last time, I'm going to remind everyone that the SOMA Interfaith Holocaust Remembrance Service is this Sunday, March 23rd at, it starts at 3 p.m. with a march in Spiota, and then we march to Congregation Beth El in Irvington and South Orange for the service that starts at 4 p.m., followed by a small reception. This year's Remember and Tell Interfaith Service explores the powerful theme of resistance and resilience. We are honored to feature guest speaker Dr. Judd Newborn, an Emmy Award-winning historian and co-author of Sophie Scholl and the White Rose. Join the SOMA Interfaith Holocaust Remembrance Service as we honor the past, remember the victims, and stand united against resurgent anti-Semitism and hate. I also want to remind everybody that YouthNet is looking for both mentors and youth to participate in their summer internship program. It's a great program. The township has had interns. I've hosted an intern at my business. And so there's information on their website. You can Google YouthNet to find out more. If you follow our social media, and if you don't, you should, and you should also sign up for our awesome new newsletter that comes out on Wednesdays with all the information you need to know from all the departments. But if you follow it, you may have seen that we were talking about recycling fibers, because the more cardboard and fibers, that includes the mail with the plastic on it, that we collect, it's actually a revenue driver for the township versus plastic, which costs money. So the more fiber that we collect, it can offset the cost of plastic. So I just wanted to make a note of that here in our meeting. And that is my report.
Thank you, Ms. Engel. Any questions for our committee?
I had one question. I was thinking about fiber when I was driving past some businesses, and I was thinking we might really want to make sure that our MVA in Springfield knows that they can talk to businesses.
So
I
that's
feel
a
like,
different situation. I'll cut you off because
Oh,
businesses
okay.
are not included in our township recycling program. They have to pay for the service themselves. And I don't even know if it's a required service. And so it is something that perhaps we can bring to engineering committee about why commercial owned businesses can't partake in the township recycling program and why that burden is put on them.
Great idea.
Any other questions?
Anything else you want to add to the agenda?
Yeah.
Those are very long
Have
meetings.
a longer report next time. Deputy Mayor Herman, you're up.
Thank you. So I want to point out a couple of things on the, one thing on the consent agenda tonight that I'm very excited about, which is a resolution to reauthorize the All Access Committee. This is something that I've been working really hard on setting up so that we can start to get to work on making sure that our town programs, events, and facilities are accessible to residents who are disabled and or neurodivergent and their families. I still have a few spots on that committee, so I'm specifically looking for residents who themselves are disabled or who, for example, may have physical mobility challenges. We want to not only represent the disability community, but also be their voice. So please reach out to me if this is you and you want to join us in this. And also last week in our consent agenda we approved the contract for the design work to start work on our proposed inclusive playground at Maple Crest. So this is another component that we have in making our community more accessible, and I'm really proud of both of those updates. Last week, I got to extend the CHS musical prom, which was really amazing. And the next day, I went to the opening of Just Like a Girl event at our 1978 Arts Center, which is a production of our Arts and Culture Division for Women's History Month. And this event included more than 50 young artists featuring 90 original works of art. You can go see this exhibit every Saturday and Sunday for the rest of the month. And many of the names of the artists, it was really exciting to see their names listed next to their pieces because I recognized a lot of them. So that was really exciting. But there's more that our youth in town are doing. It's so amazing because speaking of our youth, I want to give a big shout out to our basketball players. 3 of our MAPSO basketball teams won their place in their championships. The Suburban League 5th grade boys and 7th grade boys. And the JBL League 6th grade boys got bronze. In addition, our female teams also made it to the championship games, and so we're really proud of them as well. Speaking of basketball, we have more coming up. Spring MAPSO Madness, co-ed spring basketball clinics for boys and girls ages grades 3rd to 8th. And so if you go on our rec desk, you can sign up for more basketball. Speaking of rec, our fields are scheduled to open at the end of this month on March 31st. So we're very excited about that. Of course, it's weather dependent, so cross your fingers. Thank you to all of our seasonal job applicants and letting you know that we are looking for more. We're accepting applications for camp counselors, pool staff, and camp directors. So if there are any teachers looking for summer work, we have leadership positions available. Please head to our website at maplewoodnj.gov and go to the community services page and you can find out the application where you can apply. You can also come and apply in person. And just a few dates that you can mark down. We've got our spring egg hunt coming up on Saturday, April 12th at Memorial Park, right across from Town Hall. Very excited about that. And we've got, actually, our seniors are going to be help filling up those eggs on Wednesday, March 26th and April 2nd at 11 a.m. at the Maplewood Senior Center. So this is a really great way to tie in seniors and our youth. And then our seniors, there's a lunch and learn on March 25th, exploring how conversations about care can lead to meaningful relationships and long-term well-being. So that's all that I have to report. Lots of amazing things.
All right, any questions for Deputy Mayor?
How old do you have to be to apply for a summer job if you're a youth? Is it 14? Do you know?
Yeah.
Oh, not how old on the other end.
No. For the youngsters.
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. Then we'll move to Committee Member Daffis.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. You're up, Mr. DeLuca.
I'll make up for Mr. Daffis.
Yeah, you had a lot this month.
I have 6 items,
Every meeting,
and number
writing.
4 is the slide.
You had a lot this month.
Okay, so we have a lot going on. So on Monday, the 24th, in the morning, we are going to start a new morning drop-off traffic pattern at the middle school. And this all goes back to the students at the middle school, their STEM tank team. They took a look at this problem. They evaluated it, came up with some solutions. We had a meeting with them. I was joined by Mr. Barry of Engineering and Sergeant DeFazio of the Police Department, and we had a meeting with them on March 6th, and they gave us 3 solutions, and we discussed what we thought would work, and that is to create a one-way around the school using Burnett, Maple, and Donnell to create a loop around the school And that's going to start on Monday morning. And it's only going to be temporary. It's going to be from about 7:30-ish to about 8:20, and then goes back to normal travel. So
Is that a test period for like a month? or-
nope, nope. We're going to just see how it goes and tinker with it. We have the police are cooperating, DPW is cooperating with the police to have barricades, and we got some signs, and we're set to go Monday morning. And there's
What
going
does
to be, the public notice has just been worked out between the school board and the town, and it'll start tomorrow.
Tomorrow. And MMS will send out something to parents?
Yeah, they're going to use this, what they come up with.
Great.
So it's going to be a unified message. Number 2, Parker Avenue bike lane. So we are proposing a concept of creating a bike lane, both eastbound and westbound on Parker Avenue. We've had 2 meetings previously on March 3rd and March 10th, and then our final meeting will be on Monday, March 24th, and that's 7:30, and that'll be via Zoom. And you can get the link on the township website. We're going to be focusing on this meeting on the section between Boyden Avenue and Irvington Avenue, which presents a few challenges with the park there, with some small businesses there, and with smaller lots where people have less driveway space, less maneuverability, so they're jockeying cars in and out, often leave their cars on the street. So we're going to hopefully, we're going to be sending out letters door to door again, and we've been doing some press about it also. And then we're going to follow that meeting up. We're going to be talking about, well, I don't know, you put so many items on the engineering public works, I'm not sure we're going to have time for this, but
Well, I don't
April
want-
9th, we're going to have a discussion about what we heard and get some feedback from our professionals at our engineering public works and planning meeting, and that's going to be 8 a.m. That's a public meeting via Zoom. And then on April 15th, we will talk about it again at the Township Committee meeting when we talk about our capital budget. We do have tentatively plugged in $275,000 for this project. It's a huge undertaking. And look, you know, we want to move, but we want to move when we're ready and when the community's ready. So if more meetings are necessary, we'll just keep having more meetings and you know, touching base with people so that we can get, you know, be really clear about how we want to move forward. The third item is DeHart Park, another big project. This is a huge project because we're going to reconstruct the field. It's going to be a grass field. You know, there was a proposal to make it a turf field. That was rejected by the voters. So we're back to making it the best grass field we can. We've engaged an engineering firm, VHB, and they've come up with some field designs and some drainage proposals. And we're going to be putting that out to the community. Our first meeting is going to be in the community center at DeHart Park on Thursday, April 3rd. And that's an in-person meeting. Now, might also just say that in addition to the field design, there's going to be some rearranging of the walkway around the field. And there's a lot of people that use that walkway. That might be the most contentious. So we're going to make sure that we're clear about how we're going to arrange that. We're going to keep it, but there's going to have to be some reconfiguration of that walk around the park. So that's April 3rd. We're going to have that in-person meeting. Then we're going to talk about it again at April 9th, Engineering Public Works meeting, and that'll be via Zoom. And then on the 15th at Township Committee, we'll be talking about it one more time. And again, if more meetings are necessary, we will do so. I just want to state that the consultants are now at a point where they need direction. So that's why we're trying to move this. If we can, you know, come to some conclusion and really what, just to let people know what's being talked about. So right now there's a field that includes a playing field and a softball field. The idea is to remove the softball field and create 2 large playing fields so that we could alternate and rest fields and use the fields, manage the fields a lot better than what we can do right now. So that's what's proposed, but it does mean some changes there because that's the only lit field we have. So, so those are some of the conversations that we will have. Next up is the show and tell at the library. I want to give you a quick heads up. Today we hit a milestone, and that is the delivery of library furniture.
Yay!
So that was brought in this morning, and that kicks off about 100 days until we can get open. This is the first batch of library furniture on the 20, and you can go to the next slide. On the 24th, we'll be getting our bookcases, and as you can see, the library, this is the second floor of the library. This is all open, ready to go. You see the glass wall along the park there, and it's set for furniture. So this is a big step. We're now getting the furniture in, and then there'll be
Books.
so then the books come. After all that comes in, then the books come. Actually, there's a spot in between where we run the ventilation system for 2 weeks to just clean the air.
Yeah.
Because all this stuff brings in
Chemicals.
whatever, and
Yeah.
so we want to get everything out and clean the air. So that's all built in there too. And then I wanted to talk about our solar. So here you can see the rooftop solar collectors. This is a huge aspect of what we're doing here. This is a LEED Gold building. It is the only LEED Gold library in the state of New Jersey. You can go to the next slide. These are the back office of our library solar system. This is on the left there. You see our systems. These are batteries, and this is how the thing works. And on the right, we're actually hooked up, and we're generating electricity right now.
Going back.
And it's going back to PSE&G. And 55% of the electricity of the building will be produced by those solar collectors. So that's it. So again, we're looking right now, boy, it looks like early July, just because we got to get things in and out. And the books, the library did a call for volunteers and got somewhere around 90 people who were willing to help with the books.
Good, then we can.
Have to lift 20. So we can listen. We can do it before. We'll do it before, but we're just being a little safe. Next, I just want to announce this Thursday night on the 20th at 7:30 p.m. at the Community Center. The Hilton Neighborhood Association is having its Women's History Month event, and that's Deputy Police Chief Nahima Malloy will be there to speak about her experience as our first female police chief and deputy police chief, and her journey. She came to us after a short stint as an Irvington police officer, and we brought her on, and she's worked her way up. She was the first and ever lieutenant of our detective bureau, female detective leading that bureau. So we're going to listen to her again. That's Thursday night, 7:30 at the Community Center, and that's 120 Burnett Avenue. And lastly, today, I believe it or not, I need to get a life. I ride up and down Park to look at the parking that's there. And when I got down to the end of Parker, I said, oh, let me stop into Sweet Spot, because that's our new dispensary on the corner of Parker and Irvington.
Oh,
And they're doing a soft opening, and I went in there, and yes, they are. They're selling pot. And they're going to be working with us to do a grand opening. So, but they're opening. We have that resolution 105-25 to renew their license. So
I'm glad they're finally opening.
that's it.
Any questions for Mr. DeLuca?
How many more things should we add to the engineering meeting?
Things come that people talk.
Yeah, I think when you took over that committee, you thought you were going to be able to shrink that agenda. It doesn't happen on that.
No,
much.
the only thing that
Goes
shrunk
on.
was me.
Yeah.
The weight is way down.
Jeez. All right. So for my report, I just have tomorrow night at SOPAC Loft, we have another Women's History Month event honoring the unsung sheroes of our community. We did this for the first time last year. We have six different categories of members of our community or people who work here who aren't front and center, are not elected officials or department heads in either town, but do a lot of work and deserve some recognition. Our own Stacy Ross Trevor from our Division of Cultural Affairs is going to be receiving a community service award for her work for the township and going through a lot of changes the last couple of years and kind of carrying things forward and doing a great job at the same time. So that event is sold out. It's at SOPAC in the Loft, as I said, but other events are still ongoing in the community for the month of March in honor of Women's History Month. Deputy Mayor mentioned Just Like a Girl, which is, I believe we're extending that. I talked with Andrea about extending that into the middle of of next month because it, so everybody gets a chance to go see it. It was really inspirational, to see not just the art, but the comments made by, the girls who submitted and just kind of giving us all a little bit of hope for the future. We also, I want to thank Joanne Hedden and Department of Cultural Affairs for Rebecca Boggs Roberts' book talk at the Woodland, and then the reception following at Joanne Hedden. So there's still a lot going on for Women's History Month. somawomen.org is the website to find out any events that are going on. Plus, there's book lists on there from our library for both younger readers and adult readers in honor of women's history. So I urge you to go to that website and find out all you need to know. Our redevelopment plan for the movie theater redevelopment area was, has been talked about, community meetinged about. We had 3 community meetings, and then we got input and consultation from the Maplewood Village Alliance, the Historic Preservation Commission, and the Maplewood Film Society. And all of this information was sieved through our community, or what's it called, the Committee of Economic Development and Entrepreneurship. I know I got that backwards, but that committee is a subcommittee of the Township Committee, and we talked at length about the redevelopment plan there. The updated plan was released yesterday to the public. It's on our website. And people can go see what is incorporated, really what the redevelopment plan does. It's a non-condemnation redevelopment plan for this area in need of redevelopment that we deemed in need of redevelopment last year. And this is really a zoning document that sort of states what is permitted, what is allowed to happen in this very specific section of Maplewood Village. It does not give us any powers of condemnation. It does not allow us to tell somebody what to do. Like there are desires by the community, as we heard at the different community meetings, that a movie theater is desired that may or may not happen. There's a private purchaser for many of the properties in the redevelopment area, and they will work with us, but we'll be following what's in the redevelopment plan, which is in its latest draft form on our website, as I said. So I want to take the temperature of the Township Committee with regard to any other community meetings if we think there is a need for more community meetings on this redevelopment plan. And I want to take that temperature because I know there's some desire to do more and some desire to not do more as far as those special meetings. We still have, when we do bring this to the Township Committee as to codify the redevelopment plan, then we will have that first meeting where it's on for discussion and for codification or on first motion. It would then go, so that's an opportunity for the public to speak and ask questions about it or give their opinions. The second time upcoming that they have that opportunity will be at the planning board meeting. And then the third time will be at the Township Committee meeting again for a hearing on second reading for the redevelopment plan. So there's still plenty of time with that, but I wanted to know if this committee thinks we need extra meetings on top of that to get more input. I open it up.
I do. I think we should have one more community meeting, but I think it should happen after we are clear that the contract is done and the building has been sold. Because then it just changes the debate, and I think people need, we've done some changes here, and I think people need to see the final, or what's proposed now, the March one, and then give us some feedback. And then we should give them feedback too of what we're hearing from the developer.
Okay, anyone else?
I agree with Mr. DeLuca. I think this is the community is very engaged with this issue and they've spoken out about it. They gave feedback. We've incorporated feedback. And I just think that another meeting to be inclusive of people's voices and so that we can show them what we did. I agree. I would like that idea too, because I'm not on that committee, so I don't really know much about the buyer, what their plans are. So that would be cool if that is known. But I think we should, besides outside of the township committee, I think we should have another meeting about it.
I also agree that we should have another meeting. I think that, but I don't feel like we should have one now because we don't really, there's still a lot of unknowns. So I like Mr. DeLuca's point about having it once the deal is more final. So not right away, not right now, but once we have more information and we have more of a deal that's done, then I think that's the appropriate time.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I mean, I believe in community meetings. We want to be transparent and as informative as we can be, and we want this process to be ongoing, collaborative, and it has been very collaborative. We've engaged the community a lot, and more so than in other recent redevelopments, if I may say, in Maplewood. So the process has been collaborative and transparent. I just worry that if we did a community meeting anytime soon, like right now, there isn't really anything. It wouldn't be a productive meeting, in my opinion, because there isn't anything to relay. The draft redevelopment plan that was published yesterday on the website incorporates, as the mayor said, all of the feedback that we received from the 3 at-large public community meetings and the various stakeholder meetings that the mayor noted with the different stakeholder groups. So kind of opening that up again and going back out to the community right now and saying, okay, what do you think could lends itself to the opportunity of not having a productive meeting and confusing people and frustrating them. We really don't have, as the deputy mayor said, anything to report. When we do have a community meeting, though, after the deal closes, if the deal closes, then we have to discuss this idea of whether or not we put out a red line version of the plan. And that gets tricky too, because if you have a community meeting to say, hey, come look at the plan, people are going to ask, well, what's different from what we discussed last time? And then we have to show them, in fairness, if we're going to have a community meeting, we have to show them all the changes that were made and walk them through as to why. And we've done that in our Economic Development Committee meeting, which is public, sort of. We need to decide if that's going to be a public meeting and promote it more as a public meeting. Only certain people know about it and they come. So I just, I think that if we're going to do a community meeting after the deal closes, then we need to walk people through everything. And we have to make a decision with how much information. Some people have reached out to me already. This is why I mentioned the redacted thing. I'm not trying to open another can here of worms, but people have mentioned it. And I replied to them that it's tricky because the red line version of the redevelopment plan includes privileged work product by our attorney, who is our redevelopment attorney as well, and therefore the expert in bringing this to a more final version. And so we could potentially put out a redlined version of the draft, but also redact all the comments in it, which is sort of like not putting out anything at all, right? So there's a dance here. And I know that there are people who are emailing us passionately that they want to see the red line version. I completely appreciate that. But I'm merely stating these things to offer a little bit more information as to why I think we possibly collectively think that that is a little bit tricky right now and not necessarily as helpful as some folks believe that it will be. So that's where I stand on this.
Okay. I disagree, and I'm going to follow our attorney's advice with regard to releasing a red line version. I think it would create too much confusion, and a lot of it is not, it's more, as you stated, legal advice as to why certain things were changed, and without the benefit of the whole conversation that went into that, I think it just is not necessary to put out a red line version. We can go through, as we have before, with our planner, identifying what has been taken from the advice that was given by the different groups, the 3 community meetings, the different groups, the Historic Preservation, Maplewood Village Alliance, and the Film Society, but I don't think we should be making things more confusing. Anybody can see what was done. Anybody following it that closely likely has all those documents and can compare them. So I don't think it's necessary to do that. I think we already, at the last seed meeting, we talked about whether not to do that, and on advice of council, we thought it was better to send the clean version that incorporated all the changes that came up until this point.
And just to clarify, I just want to make sure, I'm not suggesting we do that either. I'm just
that's
saying
what I
that.
heard.
No. I'm just saying that when we go out to the public again,
Yeah.
that is part of that discussion and consideration.
Okay, so we'll just table whether or not we have what meeting we have, what form it takes until such time as that's necessary to go through. But for now, the current iteration of the redevelopment plan is available to the public. So
So do you think we should have another meeting?
I don't think we should have another community meeting. I don't think it's necessary. I think, but I live in a democracy at the moment, so I can read the tea leaves, and I disagree, but it's fine either way. And then we will also have those 3 other opportunities for the public to comment, as I stated before, in 2 TC meetings and the planning board. So with that, that's my report, and I'll move to discussion items. Youth Advisory Committee changes, Ms. Sengel.
Thank you. So I love our Youth Advisory Committee, and we're really growing, and we work together to make a couple of changes to our ordinance. Right now, what we want to do is change the ordinance to allow for 2 youth per grade with a max of 12 members. Right now, it's 1 per grade with a max of 7 members. So we just think it's more beneficial to have more voices and so people have a tag team. The second thing is we'd like to allow for co-chairs. Our ordinance currently says a chair and vice chair, but we had 2 kind of like founding members of this iteration, and we talked about reorganization. They wanted to do it together. It's a freshman and a junior. And so they've been working hard together. And so we wanted to change the ordinance to allow for that since they're busy high schoolers.
I'm fine with it. Anybody have any problems?
Good.
Okay.
So then we can put this on the agenda for the next, as an ordinance for the next.
Oh, damn.
No, not yet.
Okay.
We got like 17 minutes. We'll
Want
plow
to be
through.
hopeful. Move
That
on.
one's easy. Okay, my next one might be a little bit more of a
Oh,
discussion.
yeah. Oh, is that why you wanted to? I'll take a motion to extend past 9:30.
So moved. Second.
Mr.
Um,
Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. Luca,
Yes.
Ms. Engel.
Yes.
Ms. Herman,
Yes, fine.
Mayor Adams.
Yes. Hopefully not, but yes.
So I can't remember when we started talking at Health and Community Service meeting about SOMA for two towns for all ages. But I put this on because we have $40,000 in the budget to go toward a part-time employee that we haven't funded recently because the way that SOMA 2 Towns for All Ages started and the way things are now have kind of changed a bit. And so what I wanted to propose was, I agree with the initiative of SOMA 2 Towns for All Ages and being an age-friendly community, 100%, and making sure we have policy and people paying attention and advising us and having ideas for how we can help our seniors age in place and more. But I think that we have such a robust programming for our seniors right now. And with Ms. Herman really bringing on new voices onto our senior advisory committee, when you look at that ordinance, it's supposed to advise us on policy. So what I am suggesting is that we move that $40,000 out of that line. We don't hire anybody, and we just still do the same initiatives in a different way. We have our programming, which is great, and then we can ramp up our senior advisory committee to help us with some of the policy stuff. Our programming team at Community Service has already done some of the policy workshops around, like, I hope they're going to be doing one around Medicaid. I know they've done stuff before in the election season, and so they're already planning those kind of programming. And so that is why I think that we can still be an age-friendly initiative and move forward the same kind of great things we've done, like home share and ADUs, but that we don't necessarily need to fund a $40,000 position to do it.
I agree. We've had a few meetings between both towns, and we go in wanting to clarify what we're doing as the two towns, SOMA, two towns for all ages, and then we come out in the same exact place. It's almost like having the same meeting over and over again, I feel like. So I agree with the main part. I agree with Ms. Engel on, and I agree with pretty much everything she said, and is that Deputy Mayor Herman is taking the initiative to broaden the membership or fill existing empty seats on the Senior Advisory Committee, and do so with people who have an ear and an eye toward policy, which is the main thing that I'm hearing, that the SOMA Two Towns for All Ages is not just it's not just programming for seniors, it's policy. And to Ms. Engel's point with ADUs and home share. And I at least would like to give us the chance to see if we can do that without the existing SOMA Two Towns network or the way it's set up. And to be clear, it was funded by a grant that it's no longer funded by. So,
And it also used to be one position, Maplewood and South Orange
Right.
together, and then it got split.
right, because, yeah. So it became not what it was originally, or not what it was guided toward, but so,
Yeah, so I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to let committee member DeLuca supplement anything that I missed, because he, then mayor of Maplewood, along with Mayor Sheena Cullum, was at the forefront of establishing SOMA Two Towns for All Ages. What the heck is SOMA Two Towns for All Ages? SOMA Two Towns for All Ages is established South Orange and Maplewood as age-friendly communities. Even though we understand those words, that is a technical designation that's provided by AARP. It means that the communities are communities that are age-friendly in everything, not just programming, meaning having yoga and exercise and art and stuff like that for our older adults, but also policy-driven to ensure that everything that we're doing, all the decisions that we're doing, even when we're not talking about our elder residents or making decisions about them, that age-friendliness is at the core of everything that we're doing. So we have always had senior advisory committees, and ones with fulsome membership and ones that were active. And even though the charter of our senior advisory committee includes that our our members who are seniors on the committee are also focused on policy, we recognized that there was a need for an initiative that would specifically focus on policies that ensure that we are age-friendly community. So SOMA Two Towns for All Ages is what was established. And through SOMA Two Towns for All Ages, we became an age-friendly community in New Jersey. We were recognized by the state of New Jersey, and we led the way and helped other communities in New Jersey also become age-friendly communities: Ridgewood, Montclair, Glenridge, and many other communities. And the way that it was set up was in this following manner. It was set up with one age-friendly community coordinator who would be responsible for seeing through the policy initiatives. reporting to each town under the management and supervision of a management committee. The management committee was comprised of members of each town's senior advisory committee, members of the governing body. In the beginning, it was Committeeman DeLuca, then Mayor, and Mayor Sheena Cullum, and a neutral third party, and members of administration from both towns. And that's how we started this. And through Soma Two Towns for All Ages, we were able to receive paid for consultation from third parties outside of Maplewood. We became a community that put into place accessory dwelling units as missing middle housing. It's a way to ensure that our seniors can age in place. And we did that through this initiative. We also expanded our home sharing in Maplewood through this initiative. So it was always about policy and not all of the great programming and fun things that we have, the trips to Broadway shows, the trips to the Jersey Shore. That's not Soma Two Towns for All Ages. It was always meant to be separate. We quickly realized after we hired our first person that that person could not cover both towns. It was too much for one person, in a part-time position, by the way. Each town had its own administrative and bureaucracy complexities, and quickly it was recommended to us that we have two coordinators, one for Maplewood and one for South Orange. So we had one for Maplewood and we had one for South Orange. South Orange still has theirs. We lost ours. And so the question is now, do we hire a new person or do we get rid of this? Or do we find another way to do it? So I have consulted with the Age-Friendly Community of New Jersey, AARP, and they have confirmed over and over that we can continue being an age-friendly community so long as we focus on these policy initiatives, but we don't need to be married to this framework. Certainly, the management committee hasn't met in over a year, and as I just stated, we've lost our respective Soma Two Towns for a coordinator. So is there another way to do this same thing through existing resources? The hope and aspiration is that Deputy Mayor Malia Herman will inspire the Senior Advisory Committee to do policy work. I hope that's true, and I hope I'm proven wrong. And no disrespect to any member of the Senior Advisory Committee, but the issue is not the lack of interest or ability of the Senior Advisory Committee. The issue is having someone who is responsible, who is a township employee, who is supervised independently by administration to see through these initiatives. And that may not be an elder volunteer of the Senior Advisory Committee. So I think we need to carry this initiative forward, and we need to make a decision about the framework outside of whether we want to use that $40,000 for another purpose, for another position. It shouldn't be about the $40,000. It should be about the initiative and how it should go forward. So I think we need to talk to South Orange and see if their coordinator is willing to do more for Maplewood. I'm not sure if that's the case. And I think that certainly we don't need the management committee. I think we need to find a way to ensure that these policy initiatives are carried forward and the work continues in a new framework if we're not going to hire a separate coordinator for Maplewood. I don't know what that looks like, though, in terms of a new framework. Committeeman DeLuca? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Oh, no.
You started this, right?
No. So,
Talk, don't worry.
So-
Shy.
yeah, so I'll just cut to the chase. If you think that the senior committee with the current staffing we have is going to do policy, you're wrong.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
I was more diplomatic.
And Because it's not their job. Their job is to do program.
Yeah.
Their job is.
Not in the ordinance. I'm like the environmental
I'm
advisory.
talking about the staff.
Right, the staff is programming, right? But
Yeah.
just the same way that the
That's what
environmental
I said. There
advisory.
isn't a separate staff.
Wait, let Ms. Engel
Yeah.
finish.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, we have environmental. Oh, no, you go, Mr. Duluth.
Yeah, that would be nice.
All right.
So I just don't think that unless you change the staff, you're going to get the senior advisory committee. And we can't put it on Deputy Mayor Herman. You're not a staff person. So, I don't want to be romantic here to say that the structure we created back in 2016 is the only structure, but I think that there were some very good things that were done then. We still do a newsletter. We dealt with issues like infrastructure, talk about handicap parking spaces, benches throughout the community, walkability. We created the whole thing of when you're doing a block party, here are the things you ought to think about to make sure your elderly residents are included. Our events have now a special section for our elderly residents. So it really, it created a consciousness that we didn't have before. And I don't think we're going to continue that unless we have somebody who's on staff that's focused to do that. Whatever body they work with, whether it's a management committee or the senior committee, that could probably be worked out. But if you remove this from a staff position, you don't have the staff that's focused on policy. They have so much to do on program, and that's their orientation.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to
Ms.
say.
Engel.
Well, we just don't have any policy staff for any of our other other areas. Like I'll bring up Environmental Advisory Committee because that's the one I've been serving on the longest. And they are all about policy. They bring up initiatives, they do the research, they work with Mr. Wary, with Mr. Kittner. They've toured the recycling industry. They give us full out recommendations. They're policy focused. Yeah, we have an amazing chair who's been there a long time. We have but I just think that Ms. Herman's been interviewing people and meeting with people who are interested in this policy area. And I think, what year did you say you did this? 2016? Times change. And $40,000 for a part-time position is more than some of our community and services program managers are making. So I just feel like we can look a different way. Maybe we fail. Maybe we don't get the senior advisory committee as engaged and wanting to do this, and then we can reconsider it, because I agree that having some sort of age-friendly initiative is really important. When we're talking about policy, I thought that's our job. And I thought that's the reason we have boards and committees who are top subject matter experts who can advise us on things that we should be looking at and how to move policy forward. So I disagree that we need a staff person.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Engel on this particular point as well, because we do, our subcommittee's environmental advisory is a perfect example of where they discuss current trends, current issues related to environment. And then the liaison for that, currently Ms. Engel, brings it to the proper either other subcommittee or on for discussion for the township committee. And I don't see any reason why. And ADUs and the home share and stuff, that was a lot of the township committee talking about.
But that came to us, though, through Soma Two Towns for All Ages.
Yes, I know, but I'm saying that it could, I think we should at least give it a shot to see if the senior advisory committee can kind of step into that role of policy initiatives and policy research, and then bringing that to us. I'm not convinced we need a staff person to do policy, because I'm not convinced, because I've experienced successful subcommittees the other way.
And to your point about maybe the people currently on, I know there's a lot of openings on senior advisory committee, and I think it is our job as a liaison to shape what those committees are doing. And if you go back to the ordinance, it specifically says that they're supposed to be talking about policy, just like the environmental advisory committee ordinance says it. Youth advisory committee ordinance says it. So I just feel like it's a worthwhile.
Ms. Herman, you've been quiet.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone and your confidence in me in the Senior Advisory Committee. I do want to say that the Senior Advisory Committee they're reluctant to let anything go that is in their corner. We currently have, I think it's somewhere like 6 or 7 members of like town officials who join their committee every month. And they're reluctant to let any of them go because they're afraid that they're not going to get answers. And so they're reluctant to let Soma for Two Towns go because they're worried that they're not going to get that. But I completely agree with what Ms. Ingles said regarding all the other committees that don't have this staff person doing policy because, I have been on the pool committee for a long time and they have a very set specific thing that they're working on. But rec committee, there's some policy that we're going to have to deal with there regarding field usage. And, and we're starting up the all access committee, and that's an area, the disabled community here that has not ever had any representation in town looking out for their interests. And I think there's a lot of overlap for the senior community and the disabled community. And, once you open it up for one, you really are opening up for a lot more accessibility for all, which I think is really wonderful. And so, I see, like, it'd be really great if we each had our own policy person to help us. And I was just opening up here, I just got this, as I knock over things. I just got this New Jersey statewide survey of older adults. This is August 2024. We have, because I want to point out that we have organizations that put out information. This is from the New Jersey Advocates for Aging Well in New Jersey. And so we have organizations that put out policy recommendations that look at what other towns are doing. And I think that, we have done, I think Soma for Two Towns has done a lot of really amazing work in laying the groundwork, and the onus is absolutely on us to keep it going. I was happy to hear that the designation would not, we would not lose the designation because that's really important to me. And so I think, we can absolutely continue the work. We can do more policy and senior advisory. That is certainly my goal. I think that, yeah, I think this is a conversation that has been going on for quite a while. I think my ideal would be if one person was doing Maplewood and South Orange. So
Yeah.
that would be my ideal. But again, none of the other committees have this, policy person, and we've had the benefit of this policy person lead the way on all of these senior initiatives, and it led the way, and we now have in place a lot of things that we can continue. So, yeah, I think that's where I stand, Mr. DeLuca.
Oh, you.
I'm waiting for the mayor, didn't you? Yeah,
Yeah,
she's got her
I'm
back
supposed
to
to
me
run.
because she's mad at me. or whatever. So look, I think I don't understand this approach of a policy person. I'm not suggesting a policy person. I'm suggesting a staff person who can focus on policy.
Implementing
Let's talk about the environmental committee. Mr. Kittner goes to those meetings. The pool committee, Ms. Mancuso goes to those meetings. Accessibility committee, Mr. Weary is the staff point person. The housing committee, Mr. Weary is the housing official and the point person. So do you really think that the current staff of community services, which is programmed focus, is going to be able to handle writing point on doing senior policy or elderly or age-friendly policy?
Well, the current staff that attend the senior advisory meeting, it's a representative from community services, a representative from health department, a representative from library, a representative from our social work, and also a programmer from community services, and myself. So that's six. And then the seventh person would be the Soma for Two Towns. That's a lot of people. And yeah, those are all the people that are involved in senior, the advisory committee. And I think that all of them are very capable.
I just say, I just think we're making a mistake of taking the money out. We ought to leave the money. We don't have to spend $40,000 on a part-time person. We can define the person. But once we take it out, you can't spend any money until November. Because you can't make changes to the budget because, that's just the way it is.
I think that that is more along the lines of what I would be comfortable with, because I think that remind me again, Mr. Weary, how large is our budget for our whole town? No, not this line, our whole town. Yeah, so $40,000, I think if we leave it in and we try some things and we see if this is something that we don't need, I don't think we need to have a big discussion over
Okay,
40,000.
I want to take it back to Soma Two Towns for All Ages as a topic, separate and apart from the budget line item, although it's relevant in some of our minds. Mr. Deffis.
Yeah, so I'll try to be more persuasive or articulate this time around. The coordinator is not a policy person. They are someone who coordinates the policy implementation. The policy is the governing body's job. So we're not giving away our job to anyone else. But what I believe is true is in agreement with what Committeeman DeLuca said, which is that I think we need a staff person who reports to administration and who's accountable to administration to implement policy decisions that we make together as a governing body and that come to us through the Senior Advisory Committee and or because of the overlap All Access Committee and so on and so forth. And I don't think that it's an apples to apples comparison when we look at Environmental Advisory Committee, because the Environmental Advisory Committee has on it actual experts in environmental policy, and the culture of that committee has been separate and apart from the Green Team, which was focused on programming and events. Now, not anymore, because the Green Team sort of fell apart, and we don't have Green Day.
They started doing programming.
Right. But the idea here is that you have a staff member, a township staff member responsible for this. And then I'm so glad that you brought this. Oh my God, I'm so glad. All right. For everybody out there, you can't see this. This is the New Jersey AAW. It's the New Jersey Advocates for Aging Well. Guess who runs this organization? It's a statewide organization. Do you know who runs it?
You?
Maplewood's own Kathy Rowe. Kathy Rowe was our Soma Two Towns for All Ages coordinator.
So now
And
she's doing it for
Kathy
the
has
state.
been able to build all of this data
Right.
and demographic information from the work of towns focused on age-friendly policy implementation. So there wouldn't be this without this kind of work in the age-friendly communities.
Right. So we should redo it? We should duplicate the work here?
No. I think you need, just like the health department has an outreach person that focuses on demographic outreach and data collection and analysis, we need a staff person to do this for age-friendly policy and implementation.
I disagree. I think I've
Yeah,
made
I
clear.
think we're pretty clear.
I mean, I just think that, if you're going to say that we need someone who reports to administration who's going to implement policy decisions that we made on a variety of topics, like maybe I have buy-in for less money because I have lots of policy things that we've talked about in committees that we don't have a staff person who's focusing on it and it just falls apart. And I think when you're talking about implementation of policy, some of that is programming. And when you talk about Environmental Advisory Committee, they've been doing programming for years and they don't have a staff person doing it, they're running it themselves. So I disagree a little. So if you're going to say we need a position that's going to move forward policy decisions that we made because our current staff maybe don't have the bandwidth to do it, that's a different conversation. If we're talking about funding a $40,000 part-time position for someone to just implement policy for age-friendly initiatives, I'm going to say again, I'm a broken record, I think we can try doing it another way. I do. I know we have a really big budget, but we have other hard decisions that we have to make. Right? At our budget meetings, our taxes were going to go way up if we kept everything in. So $40,000 isn't that, it is an amount of money that I think that we can use, elsewhere.
Okay, so we're basically making a budget decision or a policy decision?
No, we're talking about a policy.
We're talking about a policy decision that's been talked about in health and community services for a very long time that didn't move forward. And it came up again in finance because it's a
So then we should take a vote. We should take a vote. Whoever wants to keep it, let's vote. I move, I'm going to make a vote.
Wait.
Can we take a vote?
Wait, you're not running the meeting. I'm going to take it back a step. I don't think we need, I think we can ask Mr. Weary for a recommendation for that line, hearing what you've heard tonight, maybe reducing it a little, maybe that will answer Ms. Herman's idea and keep some money in there should we decide to move forward with somebody to do something. But I'm in agreement with Ms. Engel. I'm not quite sure with, I think Ms. Herman, I don't want to speak for you, so.
Well, I just wanted to say that while this has been a discussion item in the Health and Community Services Committee, that was last year, and I would like that was last year before I was on the committee. So I have not been able to be a part of those conversations. I mean, it sounds like this is definitely needs more figuring out. I mean,
I might.
I couldn't get it out of committee for a year. Like, I don't know, like,
I don't-
I should just vote right now and say like, yay or nay to like end it. Cause it's like, I do. It's like you talk about the same topic over and over and over again. And I was on that committee for 2 years and this topic came up over and over and over again. And I literally could not get it out of committee until it became on the a budget line item that we were going through last Friday. And we talked about bringing a discussion. So let's just take a vote and figure out if we're going to.
I had it on the agenda for the committee and I was told that to hold because there were conversations happening with South Orange. So
Right.
I was waiting for that to come back. And so
We have had a few meetings with South Orange and Mr. DeLuca and Mayor Collum have been involved in those. And I think there's disagreement, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, we end up at the same place every time we meet with people staying where they are and then staff people not necessarily being as forthcoming with their desire to end this because of their positions. But there's also, I think we don't have to say yes or no to ending Soma Two Towns. I think I would propose that we let Deputy Mayor Herman reconfigure the Senior Advisory Committee and make sure that they are talking policy and doing research and see where that gets us, leave a little bit in the budget in case we need to implement, and then see where we are at the end of the year.
Can I ask?
It's kind of a little bit of a for both, but not really.
I mean, I stand with my position is we need to hire a person and have a staff member, but I'm clearly in the minority. But I want to ask the committee the following question. Would we be discussing this if we didn't have an opening and we had a coordinator carrying on the work?
How long has it been since we have had a coordinator?
It's been since we
been
have.
a-
No, but that wasn't my question.
But I'm asking that. Like, I mean, have we been looking for a coordinator?
Less than a year.
Less than a year, right, which is not
But that was when we
extraordinary.
had separate coordinators, and then before that, it was one coordinator
Right,
for both towns.
right.
But I think this conversation is happening because we don't have someone in that position, and it's never been the person that it was that started who moved on to the state. That's never been carried out the way it was working so well. So, and now we
Right, but if we didn't have an opening, would we be considering ending this? I don't think we would be, because we were happy with the work that the coordinators were doing.
Go ahead, Mr. DeLuca.
And one other thing, and then I'll stop talking about this. This township committee voted when the Grata Fund ended, and we were asked, the township committee has to take a position. Will it, both towns' governing bodies had to take a position. Would they carry forward this initiative or not? And both towns, by resolution, decided unanimously to carry this forward, meaning each town would pay for their respective coordinator to carry this work.
What year was that?
yeah, it was
When you say this township committee?
that's what I mean. It wasn't this township committee, but it also wasn't that governing body in South Orange and things. We also had different administrators in both towns at the time. And so we have a lot of new thoughts and process.
Sure, fair.
I want to affirm that I'm for age-friendly initiatives. I'm just saying that perhaps we can look at a different way of doing it, just like I mean, the green team is dormant. That took a long time too, and a lot of me getting on my cliff that I'd like to talk to Mr. Wary about. But I don't know. I'm not sure why. It's an open position. I don't think we've been recruiting for the position. And I'm just not sure why we can't just try a different way for it. I hear what the mayor's saying about leaving a little bit of money in the budget line in case that a new way doesn't work, and so that we don't have to refight to add it back in. But I don't know. I'm kind of firm on this. So I'll just.
Mr. DeLuca, you have one more chance to give it.
No, I just think we should
'Cause I
come up
don't
with a
want-
conclusion. So, we have to make a decision tonight because we're going to introduce the budget on April 1st, and Mr. Weary needs some direction from us. So right now, and honestly, it was brought up as cut to 40,000. So no one's arguing that there may be a different way to do things. There certainly will be a different way to do things. But if we take the money out, we can't put it back in. If we decide in 2 months that, you know what, we really do want somebody to ride point on age-friendly stuff, to work with other groups, to work with our internal committees, whatever they might be, we're just not going to have the resources to do it. So to me, we can leave the 40,000 in there, not spend it. There's no harm, no foul. It goes into reserves. It gets used in a future budget meeting, future budget. And we can evaluate how best to do this. But if we take the money out, we have one less tool to accomplish what we want to accomplish.
And there's also 15,000 left, correct? So we're at 55.
That's right. There's $40,000 in salary and wage and $15,000 in operating.
Right.
Other expense.
So since we already have the 15,000, I'd suggest 25 and 15 and the 15 that's existing. But that's
Currently in the budget, 1,000 and the 15,000 exist.
yes, I'm aware. So.
So I think does Mr. Wary need some like guidance from us about what he's doing with that line?
Mr. Wary, what are your thoughts? And feel free to say your thoughts and your position on this whole thing, which would be easier for administration and its department heads to manage, along with South Orange's administrator and department heads.
So first on the budget, I mean, if you're talking about buying some more time to figure out exactly what this looks like going forward, and potentially maybe a position that has less hours than the previous two towns coordinator, you could easily cut the salary and wage line from $40,000 to $20,000. Absorb that probably regardless of what we do this year. And that at least has some budget impact this year. Problem is next year, to Mr. DeLuca's point, if you decide to fully fund the position, you got to increase that line.
Right.
That might be a middle ground, and certainly from the budget, that's a little bit helpful. I would not remove the $15,000 because even without the two towns coordinator for the past, I think it's maybe 6 to 8 months, we've spent the majority of that $15,000. I mean, we still have expenses associated with some of those initiatives, right? So I'd leave the full 15,000 in the budget, and I would cut the 40,000 down to 20,000. That's on the budget side.
Mm-hmm.
On the Soma two towns staff position, there's two pieces to this. In my time here, the Soma two towns for all management group, which was the piece between Maplewood and South Orange, in my experience, hasn't fully functioned, right? I think, and the idea was that we both, Maplewood and South Orange, work together on this. I haven't seen that work. So that means that, exactly, they have some responsibilities on the website newsletter. We had a little more responsibility on some of the programming of the initiatives, right? So not programming, but we're going to have a workshop, do things like that. So I haven't exactly seen it work well in my time here. I also haven't seen in the last 6 to 8 months the lack of productivity in this area. So I think that there is a way for it to work without a Soma two towns. The question is that the best way? I certainly think there's a way.
Okay. I for one am in favor of trying to get better performing senior advisory committee and lesser funding in the budget for it, which we can use if we decide to do any program or any policy from that for, let's face it, a half a year by the time we get there. So that's my proposal to the committee.
I'm good with that.
No.
No.
No. Okay. So that wasn't an official vote. Do we need one? No.
Your official vote will be in the budget, so.
Okay.
Putting that the majority of you are in favor of cutting that line by half.
Mhm.
Everybody will have an opportunity to.
And Ms. Herman will be moving more on policy initiatives out of senior advisory.
No pressure. So what is the 25,000 then if it's for staffing from 40?
20.
What does that mean?
20,000. That means
Who are we going to hire for 20 grand if we decide to hire someone?
this is a part.
Because we can't put the money back
This has been a part-time position, so
at 20 grand.
at $40,000.
Right, no, I understand that, but who's going to take this job for 20 grand?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I mean, they're not saying that I don't think anybody will. I'm just saying.
No, I just wanted to put that on the record.
I've had one
Just
person.
I'm being rhetorical with you.
Okay, we're moving on. Pool fees, Deputy Mayor.
Good thing we did 9:30.
Yeah, good thing.
Yeah, really.
Sorry, folks.
Okay. So the pool fee discussion, the pool advisory committee has discussed rates, but they are meeting next week to make their official recommendation, seeing that the summer is fast approaching and we need to get an ordinance. This needs to be done in an ordinance, and we need to get that introduced on April 1st. It was my intention to bring this for a front-loading discussion, just to take the temperature and see what everyone thinks. As you know, in the 2024 pool user fees, they are exactly 10% less than 2023. This was a reduction that was made and paid for by, so we had some American Recovery money, and we also had a town investment in that. And what we found was that we didn't lose as much as we thought we were going to lose because more people signed up for the pool. So that's like a really amazing thing. So in keeping with the commitment that this township committee has made to reduce the pool fees and make our community pool more accessible to our community, the PAC would like to reduce rates by another 10% for this summer. Now, if we did this, our family rate, which is our most popular rate, could dip below 400 for the first time in a decade. And all of our rates, if we did this reduction, all of our rates would be under 500. And they would essentially fall back to where we were in 2017 at the early bird rates. So, this would be, not only continuing the Township Committee's commitment to making our pool more affordable and more accessible, it would also be a bit of good news for residents. That would offer some relief and some cheer this summer. The proposal that the PAC seems to be leaning toward would bring back the very popular early bird rates. And I kid you not, I hear about early birds all the time. People on the pool committee, everyone not on the pool committee, everyone is wants to know about early bird. It was very, very popular because people like getting a deal. I like getting a deal. I could go and buy something, but if it's on sale, I'm just saying. So what we've been talking about is doing the early bird rate at the full 10%. So the best deal you're going to get, what I just described below, under 400, 500, that's going to be the early bird. That's what we've been talking about. But then doing the regular rates at a 5% discount. So everyone gets a discount, everyone gets a free car. No kidding, but everyone gets a discount. And if you do early bird, you get a bigger discount. And this would also be financially prudent because it gives us a little protection from the full 10% cuts, but we also everybody gets a discount, and we make people happy by bringing back the early bird. And bringing back the early bird would benefit us by encouraging people to sign up early. People who sign up early and don't procrastinate, if they procrastinate, they're just not going to sign up. And so I think this would bring even more people to the pool, and we would end up losing less. So I circulated a sample graph of what it might look like, just to give some ideas. And the budget impact, my understanding, talking to Mr. Weary, is if we do, and this is based on a 10% across the board decrease, is we would fund, so it'd be $87,000 to do a full 10%. probably less to do like the 10 and 5, but let's just assume full 10%. And then we would fund half of that, say around 43,000, just kind of, hedge our bets. Although I think that we would end up selling a lot more pool fees and not having that much of a hit. So, but we'll see where we go. We're again looking for that happy point where the rates and the demand, really align. So,
I appreciate your graph and the information. Mr. Ware, I have a question about operations. What would early bird, the different numbers, the 5%, 10%, would that be doable with ease through our rec desk or whatever? It's through rec desk, right? So that
Because there's a date where it flips from
it flips automatically.
relatively straightforward.
Okay. So do you see any, so you don't care either way which way we go with this
Not in regard to rec desk.
in regard to anything else?
Oh, I mean, this,
I just mean operationally, like, well,
no, that's.
okay. That's all I wanted to double check. Anybody have any thoughts?
I'm a little unclear. We've already said that we want to do 10%. The township committee, when we were
Yeah.
doing the budget. Yeah, we did. We did. We talked about putting 10% into the budget, which,
that was last year. You agreed.
no, it was this year. We did it at this budget hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, when we talked about it. We talked about the pool
We didn't
budget.
talk about a number.
We talked about 10%, and we
Talked
said
about
it was gonna be, and then Mr. Weary told us it was about 80-some thousand dollars. So are we talking about putting less money in? What, I don't
No,
get the
no, it's the
43.
same amount.
We're supposed to putting the 87,000.
No, what we're talking about is putting in half of the 87 because as we decrease the rates, we're going to increase the number of people.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought you said.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought you wrote. I want to understand from a financial perspective, does that make sense? Because if that doesn't work out, if we have a recession or something happens and we don't have the money, we don't have the money. So why not put the 87 in? And if we do get more money than we're anticipating, well, that's great. That just goes to the fund
Yeah,
balance.
either way is fine with me. This was just a suggestion of how to manage the unknowing of the impact.
I think the budget impact would be the same if based on my conversation with the township committee and with Ms. Herman, in that we're going to reduce some or all of a portion of these fees by 10%, right? And last year we saw us reduce by 10%, but increase in revenue. So this year, my recommendation was reduce by 10% and only reduce anticipated revenue by 5%. I think we all agree on that, and I don't think there's what Ms. Herman is recommending or suggesting would have any impact on that. So we wouldn't change the budget regardless of what the township committee decides from your recommendation. But the recommendation is you do the 10% as the early bird, and if you don't get the early bird, you get a rate that is 5% less than this.
I'm fine with that. You have to, otherwise you don't need an
I
early.
summarized that well, so there's no budget
Yeah.
impact.
Yeah, and I'm not looking for a decision, just for some input on where everyone stands so that I can take that to the pool committee when they develop their recommendation.
I guess my question, well, I'm for early bird pricing. I've always been for it. I think if we can get people to sign up for the pool before May 1st, before May 3rd, May 15th, before it gets to June, we're going to increase numbers. I'm curious to hear what Mr. DeLuca would say, because we decided, I think 2 years ago, that we were going to lower pool rates by 10% every year. And for me, I'm not positive that lowering 10% just for early bird is following through with that policy. It's offering it. So I was just curious to hear what you would think, Mr. DeLuca.
I don't have,
know
I really don't have a position.
Okay.
You know, I just want to be clear. I thought we decided we were going to put money in. Okay. How it gets worked out, I'm not opposed to early bird, I just think.
I think the confusion comes around because the pool committee in the ordinance says that they're supposed to help advise on pool fees. And so they still do that, but we've also made a decision up here that we're going to decrease by 10% every year. So I think it gets a little bit,
That was based on their recommendation.
I know, but it gets a little confusing. Like, are they still, because they have to get this ordinance on the agenda so that we can sell membership or users, and it has to get moving.
Well, let's just get a general for each member. Do we have I'm fine with an early bird, the way you laid it out. Sounds like Mr. DeLuca is, and the pool advisory, and Mr. Daffis is, and yeah, so go, that's what you can take to the pool advisory, and that's it.
And I-
Done.
To say that last year we had introduced the ordinance for pool fees on the first meeting in April, so I don't know when you expect to.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
meeting next week.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
plan.
That's the plan. All right, next, discussion item, next and last is 2025 budget. Mr. Weary, I'm kicking it to you. Make sure you speak loudly in your microphone.
Oh, well, I will. Thank you, Mayor. So I'll give a rundown that most of this discussed in the Finance Committee last week, but these are changes made to the budget as a result of the budget workshops and any kind of new numbers that we've received just operationally since then. So, sometimes we'll get revised. Maybe it's a South Essex Fire Department budget. Maybe it's our JIF assessment. Maybe it's how much money we're going to get from the state. Some of those numbers have changed as a result and have been made since those workshops. So overall, this year, we're looking at a 3.25% tax increase to support this budget. So the non-union salary increases would be in line with our union salary increases. That's at 3.25%. We have set up an all-new stormwater utility. The township will pay approximately $325,000 into our utility from the municipal operating budget, and then that amount would be offset by the stormwater utility paying for a portion of the appropriate salary and wages and operating lines in our municipal budget. And that way, there's not like a double
Like in
tax,
DPW.
like a DPW and engineering. That way, there's not a double tax to residents for setting up the utility. Under community services, there was a desire from the township committee to trend down some of the operating and salary and wage lines that had been increased for increased programming. We'll still have some increased program this year, especially around the basketball camp was one of the big ones. But some of those other lines we're not going to do some increases that the director had requested. We have also added into the budget a staff person at D Hart, which is making what's currently a part-time position into a full-time position that would be the hybrid of two roles. One part of the role as a program manager, the other part as a building attendant.
And that was cleared through labor attorney. So it allayed your fears that you
there's a way to do it, absolutely.
voiced before.
And then as a result of tonight's conversation, we will cut $20,000 out of the Soma Two Towns for All salary and wage line there. Engineering and Public Works, we increase the contribution to the utility, the stormwater utility, from $290,000 to $325,000. Under administration, we increase the hours for the public information officer, and we will increase the amount allocated for historic preservation from $3,000 to $15,000. That wasn't in the most recent version of the budget that was circulated, but it's such a small amount, it won't have an impact. And I do understand that that was discussed during the workshops and was generally agreed to by the Township Committee. So that's what will be included in the budget that's presented to you for introduction. In the pool, we made the 10% reductions that we just discussed for fees. We also increased a little bit of our surplus used from $40,000 to $15,000. And there was a need to increase our municipal contribution by about $12,000. And we also, into revenue on the pool, added the $21,000 we received from New Jersey Transit for the parking lot lease. And there was an offset to revenue. We had previously anticipated that as revenue in the municipal line, and we had removed that $21,000. Under police, we've added a parking enforcement officer and a crossing guard. We also made some reductions in overtime from what was discussed in the budget workshops. That's a result of what we had projected for this year was what we had spent last year, and we just don't think we're going to spend as much overtime this year as we had previously. We, in the court, added money for increases to salaries for some of their staff. Under clerk, we have increased the salary line for the Township Committee from $25,000 to $50,000 to account for a recommendation on an increase to those amounts. In revenue, or this is now on the revenue side and not on the expense side, we had increased surplus anticipated from $2.2 million to $2.5 million. We don't have the final number of surplus generated from last year's operations. We'll have that in the next 1 to 2 weeks, but our CFO is confident that we'll generate more than we did last year, than we used last year. So that's a $2.2 million, and hopefully near that $2.5 million number that we're anticipating in this year's budget. And we have enough money in surplus to where, minor deviations from that, being the amount we anticipate and the amount we regenerate, won't affect our overall surplus by too great a number. We also added pilot revenue from pilots that we have entered into in the last year at 92 Tiffany and at 7 West Parker. We do have some changes we may see. The South Essex Fire Department has a budget workshop this week, and the proposed budget, most recent, has some slight changes from what was discussed previously, so that may have an impact to us. The most recent budget is less than what was originally circulated, and so that would provide us some relief. And so on the, when we look at big picture, 3.25% increase in municipal taxes, some numbers may change, but we are able to balance those between surplus anticipated. We also have some reserve accounts where we put money away for potential expenses, and those are numbers that we can modify without having a great overall impact on the budget. And so we'll use those to kind of balance any changes that happen between now and when we introduce on April 1st.
Thank you very much. That was
welcome.
very good and concise. I like it.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Wary or any discussion items with regard to the budget?
Yeah, are we just dealing with the operating budget?
I'm sorry?
Are you just dealing with the operating budget?
Yeah.
So that's just the operating.
Okay.
That's just the operating.
So I want us to be transparent here. You made a comment about increasing Township Committee from 25,000 to 50,000, or increase it by 25,000. Could you talk about that? You've done some research.
We looked.
Why did you do the research? What were you asked to do and things like that?
Yeah, so we want to make sure that we're paying our township committee an amount that it entices people to want to run for office. I think that's the biggest thing. But also there is an expense that comes with just being in township committee in terms of what it costs you of your time, what it costs you in terms of other things that come up in your life that you have to pay for because you have to be here. And we also want to be fair to our governing body, and some of the way we look to make sure we're fair is to look at other municipalities around us and see, are we in line with how they're compensating their elected officials. So we looked at South Orange, Milburn, Livingston, Springfield, all of which were, their elected officials were earning above what is currently the compensation for the governing body members here. I can run down those numbers if that's helpful to you, but they're, anywhere between $7,500 and $12,000. And whereas this year with a cost of living adjustment that every non-union employee would get, that's how we treat our governing body, you'd be making just over $5,000. So it's a small amount anyway, but in a small amount, there's a big discrepancy. And so I recommend to the governing body correct with this year's budget.
It be retroactive to when we were elected?
No. Salary and wage changes, it would be retroactive to January 1st of this year.
So when I started on the Township Committee, I was getting, this was 26 years ago, so this is important, I think.
Okay.
We were making just under $4,000. And if you look at the inflation, since just the cost of living is doubled, it's gone up 200%. So at a minimum, we should be talking about just bringing it up to the cost of living things. And I think with the idea of South Orange now paying their council members, we currently are still at 5,000, as you said. And so the idea here is to bring it up to 10,000.
Per year, just to get that out there. Per year.
Per year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's about, instead of 20 cents an hour, we're getting more like 40 cents an hour.
And,
Increase.
and I know we did this in the past, that we would just be getting in the future what the employees get, whatever percentage that is.
Yeah, 3
So I think we ought to, whatever we do now, if we're going to do that, when we adopt the budget, if we're going to go from 5 to 10, we ought to also just at some point make another vote that in the future, it's going to be the, whatever the employees get, so that folks don't think we're going to be jacking on another 5,000, another 5,000, another 5,000. So one-time salary adjustment.
Then
Well,
going
one time
forward,
for
it would
now.
be generally the cost of living adjustment provided to any other non-union employee.
Right. Okay. Any other discussion on the budget or anything?
All right,
No.
so then so that was the operating budget. Capital.
Capital.
We had come in with a lot of requests for capital. I think we had about $18 million on the municipal side of requests. Through our discussion here, I had provided a recommendation to the Township Committee for a $7.2 million capital budget. And
And the original was,
well, when I presented it last, and I had showed everything that like a series of cuts to get from 18.7 million requested down through 14.9, 11.5, 8.1, and we ended up at 7.1. The biggest piece there is, or one of the large pieces there is DeHart Park. We chose to take out of the capital budget that is proposed in April, but we have a full understanding that that is likely to be considered later on this year. So that provided a great deal of relief now, but that's,
it'll be
and
bonded
it
for
helps
later.
to delay this one DeHart Park because we can think about it as a separate project, which we have for a while now. But two, by the point when we decide to pass fund the park field, we will have a better idea of what that actually costs. Right now, our engineer is just kind of plugging in a number he thinks is responsible, and that was that $2.5 million number. And so we have removed that from the budget, from the capital.
and so there weren't any changes in the finance committee to capital.
No.
No, it was all pretty much like the last
No.
budget hearing.
And I can talk about anything you'd like. I can run down it quick
Right.
if you want. I mean, whatever.
Does anyone have any questions or any?
Just the 1.2 for roads,
That's
Yeah.
in there.
that's there, and you have a good feeling that we'll be able to accomplish all those roads that we're proposing?
Yeah.
I mean, just to be realistic, New Jersey American Water is going to end up either paying us a good amount of money for
That's right.
what they've done to roads or repaving a good amount of roads. And they're well aware of that, right? And so I think that in itself gives us some relief. But even without considering that, originally the engineer came in with a $1.4 million request for roads. My first reduction was recommending 800,000. The Township Committee thought that that was too aggressive and that we weren't going to be able to do all of the things related to road paving that we wanted. So that may be, regrading slopes. It may be drainage. In doing that, working with the engineer, we are confident that we can get everything he recommends to be done. I say that knowing
Right, of
it's
course.
low bidder, but
So any
in
other?
the budget now is $1.2 million.
Okay.
And that was for 7 roads, right?
I think it was 8.
8.
Say it was
Okay.
8. I can give you the list. If you want to wait now, I can.
No, that's fine. We can do that afterward.
Yep, and I can circulate.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a budget question, and I don't want to go back to this,
Uh-oh.
but the Soma for Two Towns going from
I
going
think
from 40 to 20, does that make a difference in our budget? It seems like,
Not
because
really. No.
because I don't feel like we have finished this discussion on what to do on that. And so I would personally rather just keep it where it is and continue discussing.
Oh, did you get text messages in between?
No, I didn't get any messages.
No, I'm
but
just joking.
But
Wait,
when
wait,
this
wait, wait,
came
wait.
up,
We
but
just,
when this came up, I thought that the vote was between nothing, which was what Ms. Ingles' first recommendation was to cut it out. And I thought we were making a compromise to do 20.
we were, plus the 15 that's already in operating.
Right. So I am fine with compromising and not, cutting it out. But It sounds like others are there. It sounds like there are three options. There's cutting it all completely, there's keeping it at 40, and then there's compromising at 20.
Okay, but respectfully, I think we already like finished that topic. We
We're still
literally
talking about
came
the
to that.
budget.
I know, but we did at the end of the Soma Two Towns discussion. That was the conclusion.
I also feel like I need to
feel like I
point out
wasn't
that for
happy
some
with the
people,
conclusion.
$20,000 is a lot of money. So I actually don't like the fact that we're saying like $20,000, it's not that much, just like leave it in. Like $40,000 for a part-time job is more than I was making. So like, I just want to make clear that $20,000 is a lot of money and it can go toward other things. So I just felt like I
Plus,
needed
we're
to say
still
that.
talking about a half year at the moment,
Yeah,
but
So,
I
so,
think we've
so
already.
Mayor,
I haven't been able to
Hold on
have
one
this in
sec.
my committee, so.
I think we should just be clear with Deputy Mayor Herman that you're on record as going for 20.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm wanting to compromise and
Okay.
work toward a solution.
So as three of you wanted to go for 20, two of us didn't. So I think there's been a
where we're-
decision, unless you want to change it.
I just feel like I am not done talking about it, and I don't want to take anything away from the seniors, but, so I
I
would
think
like
we're
to.
good budget-wise where we are.
Yes, this is a budget. This is a line item
Not
in
like
here
if we
with
needed to, we couldn't.
with money available, and you can continue the conversation if you want.
I'm sorry. All right. I understand you're frustrated. We're trying to get through this. This is the last discussion item. Yeah, we're here late too. I ask you to this is just making it longer. Mr. Wary. So we're done with this discussion item. And we're where we were. It can always get raised again another day. All right.
On the pool capital budget, it's $33,000. On the stormwater utility capital budget, it is $2.1 million. And out of open space, it is $591,000. The only change there on the stormwater utility, there was a request during our budget workshop to include Meadowbrook pipe and inlets, and that has been funded in the stormwater.
Okay. All right, fine. Anything else on this discussion item? Okay, thank you.
Good work, Mr. Wary.
A lot of discussion. That's probably the longest discussion we've had in a while. All right, consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
I move the consent agenda.
Second,
Daffis,
Yes.
Luca.
Yes.
Engel.
yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes, thank you. Now we move to public comment on any item at all that you'd like to talk to the Township Committee. Thank you. Please come to the microphone, give your name and where you're from, and then you have 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Wary. We're all tired, trust me.
Good evening,
Yes,
Township
good evening.
Committee. Thank you for having me. My name is Temitayo Shajuikbe. I'm a resident of Maplewood, specifically Maplewood Village. I have a statement that I would just like to read. This is regarding community safety concerns and a request for mitigation measures. We, the residents of Maplewood Village community located at the intersection of Boyden and Elmwood Avenues, would like to publicly express our concern regarding recent activities in our neighborhood that have created an unsafe environment. We respectfully request that the Township of Maplewood implement measures to address these hazards as they pose significant life safety risks to the public. As you may be aware already, on the evening of Sunday, March 2nd, 2025, gunshots were fired along Elmwood Avenue. Several rounds of gunfire were heard, with one bullet entering a neighbor's home. Fortunately, this person was not harmed. However, this is alarming and is raised considerable safety concerns among residents. Additionally, we would like to emphasize that Elmwood Avenue is poorly lit, further exacerbating the sense of vulnerability in our community. We kindly urge the township to take prompt and effective action to enhance safety measures in our area. This may include increased police presence, improved street lighting, and community outreach initiatives to promote public safety. I have a colleague of mine that will speak to his personal experiences on that day. But I'd just like to finish by saying, in addition to the safety concerns related to that specific incident, we would like, for the record, several items to be addressed. Number one, on Elmwood Avenue, we would like to request additional street lighting to be installed. In addition, speeding cars and speed racing is also an issue that needs to be addressed. We are requesting a speed indicator sign to be installed on Elmwood Avenue. Number two, do not block. The current T-shaped intersection at Boyden Avenue and Meadowbrook Place is constantly blocked by drivers along Boyden, making it difficult for residents to make that left-hand turn coming onto Meadowbrook. It is also difficult for the jitney to make that turn as well. We believe it would be safer and beneficial to install a do not block striping on the road, and similarly, a do not block the intersection sign. Number three, street parking. In the Maplewood Village Association, which I am a resident of, is constantly having issues with cars being parked overnight. There is barely any ticketing or enforcement of parking rules. And then lastly, the parking lot, we have noticed that there are also many cars being parked without a permit, taking up valuable spaces belonging to the MVA residents. Again, there doesn't appear to be any enforcement. So I just like to thank you for your time and consideration for these issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick question on the parking lot without permits. Are you talking about the pool parking lot or your own parking lot?
Oh, your mic's
It's
on.
the shared, it's.
Sorry. No, the pool parking lot?
Next. I know, you got some.
Good evening. My name
Good
is
evening.
Paul Amelia. I'm a 17-year resident of South Orange and Maplewood, 2-year homeowner at Maplewood Village on Elmwood Avenue, 255 Elmwood Avenue. I'd like to read a little recounting of the events that happened on Sunday, March 2nd, 2025. At approximately 7 p.m., I was seated at my couch in my living room at 255 Elmwood watching some television when I heard 3 to 4 loud noises outside my home. Not sure what the noises were, maybe fireworks or cars backfiring or something. I opened my front door and immediately heard 2 more gunshots. I quickly closed the door. Maplewood police arrived approximately 10 minutes later and closed Elmwood Avenue between Boyden Avenue and Meadowbrook Road to traffic. Because there is such little lighting on this street, they had to call on the fire department to come out, set up a vehicle, and raise a very large light. And I have a photo here on my phone that continued through most of the night. My entire unit faces out onto the street, so I got to enjoy that nighttime sun as they worked walking around to get to it. And then I spoke with the officers about what I observed happened that evening. They took my report. It was very distressing. And to that point, I've lived there since June of 2023, and this has raised concerns for me personally. As a result, I have extended the range of the security cameras I have on the front of my house to go all the way to pick up all traffic that goes by on the street. So my phone throughout the day is now picking up hundreds of vehicles and people walking by because that's how concerned I am for the safety in this neighborhood. In the morning, it is pitch black along that street. You can't see the person who's coming at you walking the dog till that dog is suddenly upon you. And the delivery people, whether they are Uber or Amazon or whatever, are walking around with large electric lights, shining them to try to identify whether it's on our side or the other side of the street. So please, making just some minor improvement. When I was riding the jitney this morning, I noticed that the lights along nearby streets like Garfield and such, much brighter, but our streets much darker. So thank you.
Understood. Thank you. And guarantee we'll be looking into that. Hi.
Hello, Mayor Adams and esteemed members of this body. My name is Karen Elliott. I too am a member of the Maplewood Village community. My neighbors have spoken to the matter of the shooting and the lighting, and I'm going to speak about the matter of the streets and issues there. Those of us who live on or adjacent to Elmwood Avenue between the Irvington municipal border and Boyden Avenue have seen an alarming increase in speeding and reckless driving on that stretch of road. That's where there is very little lighting. Over the past couple years, some of us have come to call summer car flipping season. As cars driving at a high rate of speed looking to evade police or speeding between jurisdictions crash into parked cars, permanent structures, trees, curbs, and literally flip over. If they don't flip over, they simply just drive right into property, trees, rocks, whatever. They just drive into stuff. This section of Elmwood Avenue is an unregulated thoroughfare for illegal activity, as further exemplified by the recent shooting on Elmwood in front of the home in the 300 block of this street. Residents of Maplewood Village condominiums are here tonight to request that the committee take meaningful steps to ensure that this portion of our community is made meaningfully safer. To that end, I am requesting that in addition to enhanced lighting, the town take immediate action to slow motor traffic on this stretch of Elmwood Avenue that begins at the Irvington border and ends at the Boyden-Elmwood intersection near True Salvage. And I believe that there is a measure already set up in Section 3 of PL 2004 C107, which states that the municipality and the county can, without approval of a commissioner, construct a speed hump on a two-lane street where there are fewer than, the posted speed is less than 30 miles an hour and where there are fewer than 3,000 vehicles per day. I hope I have that correct. I just looked it up on Google. I believe that that section meets that criteria. Additionally, I'm hoping that based on the same provision, that we can see that the one-way street, Meadowbrook Lane, the section between Boyden Avenue and terminating at Elmwood Avenue, this section of Meadowbrook Lane is exclusively residential. It runs right through Maplewood Village condominiums, but it is consistently being used as a high-speed cut-through for people who do not want to wait at that Boyden light. And it's heading directly into Irvington, so people who are also perhaps evading jurisdictional capture are using that street. And we do have a lot of questionable driving on that street. I realize that the time is coming to an end, but this is super important. We also have a problem with the crosswalk that goes from Meadowbrook into the parking garage, to the parking lot, and goes from New Jersey Transit into that parking lot. They're very poorly marked, and people they don't stop. So we need either a blinking light that shows that stopping, much better repainted crosswalks, something to make it safer for our residents who consistently use that cross path. I want to thank you so much for your time. And I also wanted to just say to the group that while we were sitting here waiting, news came around that a court has put an injunction on getting rid of transgendered members in the military.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it seems
There you go.
for tonight, right?
Yes.
Fully, yeah.
Thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you
Thank you.
very much. Yeah, let's see if the judges can,
Continue fighting.
we'll see if well, at least the Supreme Court justice spoke today, which is hoping. Sorry, go ahead.
Susan Bella, resident of the Maplewood Village Condo Association, 39 Meadowbrook Place. Little history, my family moved here in 1928. I was born St. Barnabas, 1974. My father was born here in 1948. So to refer back to my neighbor Paul Amelia's statement, the police took 10 minutes to arrive for gunshots. In 1990, the police response time in Maplewood was 3 minutes. A 10-minute response time may be okay for a fender bender. It is not okay for gunshots, multiple gunshots.
I think both Mr. DeLuca and I wrote that down, so.
Yeah, it needs, it's quite frankly unacceptable.
Mhm.
Second point, I'm sorry, I have a few. In regard to the pool fees, yes, you guys have lowered them, but I want to, and you mentioned the family membership being the most popular. I would like you to do a breakdown of what it is per individual. Because if you do that, you'll realize that single households, single family memberships,
Pay more.
people are paying an exorbitant amount compared to multiple member households. Not very inclusive. Another point, we talked a lot about the SOMA for two towns ad nauseum. As a person who is an AARP member, I can tell you that the issues affecting people of our age bracket are not whether or not we have some designation, it's taxes. And so if you can save money by having people who do policy work the way they do on other committees, I would wholeheartedly recommend it. And finally, again, I am sorry for speaking out of turn before.
Okay.
But this is not the first time I've attended a committee, an open committee meeting. And maybe I just have really bad luck, but every single time, the amount of time given over to proclamations, which admirable, that are issues that the township has little control over. I've been where it's about the women's equality. Now it's about transgender rights. They are very admirable. That it's not township business though. The township can't affect the broader world. I really think it would be nice if residents could address their concerns before 10:30 at night, rather than wasting money on things that we cannot change on a township level. Again, very admirable, but maybe that should be a last order of business and not making people sit through, half an hour of business that doesn't affect it affects the residents, but we can't effectuate the change here.
Understood. And I hear your frustration. I will say that normally our meeting is done before 9:30, which is why we have a motion to extend past 9:30. So you happen to come on a night that went longer because we had some difficult and discussion items that were much longer than the proclamations. Yeah,
Discussions that, again,
right.
we are not going to change as a town. We can't affect the broad.
Yeah, they're largely symbolic, understood. They're symbolic, but they do mean a lot to a lot of people.
Also, some
Yeah.
grandstanding by, not you, but there was some grandstanding during multiple discussions tonight where people were addressing apparently cameras. It was.
Thank you. Anybody online, Mr. Wary?
Yes, Mayor, we have two people online. If anyone online would like to speak in public portion, please raise your hand now. I am moving over Joan Crystal to panelist. Welcome to public portion, Ms. Crystal. You may unmute yourself and address the committee.
Thank you. I want to speak about Summer to Towns for All Ages. I really think you're making a mistake in eliminating the coordinator position. The coordinator position is about more than just policy. It's a point person for the senior community in Maplewood, handling all sorts of issues that come up individually with seniors and also collectively on issues of major concern. It's not about programming. It's not about research is important, but that's not something that the Seniors Advisory Committee can do. We don't have qualification requirements apart from age on the Senior Advisory Committee. We don't have people who are experts in research, who are experts in policy, who are experts in gerontology. We rely on the staff members who are part of the committee to advise us on what's happening in the town, and then we give feedback as to what the seniors in our community need. That's not the same focus as on the environmental committee that Deb has been talking about. And I really hope you'll reconsider and consider the Summer Towns for All Ages is providing an important role in the community. If not continuing Summer Towns Ages formally, I hope you will consider having an alternative that provides a point person for seniors who's a staff member of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else, Mr. Weary?
Yes, now moving over Shannon Cuddle to panelist. Welcome.
Oops. Hi. Hi,
Yes,
good evening.
Go ahead.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to also come back because I wanted to make sure that folks had the opportunity throughout the meeting to express their viewpoints, which is why I'm joining at the end of the meeting. And again, I know it's a late one for you guys. I just want to express my gratitude and thank the Maplewood Township Committee for supporting the resolution tonight for TDOV. This is now the 10th year that we've supported a resolution, and even more so this year with reaffirming our sanctuary status now more than ever is really important. And I just wanted to express that and give thanks because it does matter when our elected leaders in the community are able to speak out and affirm the support of all of our community. It does matter. It does create change. Many of you know, I always say representation matters, visibility matters. It can change lives. It can save lives. So I just really want to acknowledge that. And I also want to acknowledge and say thank you to recognizing Rachel Crandall Crocker for her proclamation and her day of recognition today. As a personal point of privilege, if I may say, during my public speaks here, you know, she's not just somebody who has been a long time trans advocate, LGBTQIA plus elder and leader. We had a lot of young people and families in our audience tonight for when we did the TDOV proclamation. And those young people are looking up to those that come before us. And I just want to acknowledge that Rachel Crandall was the person that came before me and had an impact. And so I think it's important that we acknowledge that. And I just want to thank the Maplewood Township Committee and at the same time also again acknowledge the fact that the importance of raising awareness, not just for Transgender Day of Visibility, but also at the same time keeping our commitment to uplifting all marginalized communities. Thank you so much and appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Weary, is there anyone else?
I see no other hands, Mayor.
All right, then.
Mayor, I would like to just, unfortunately, the people left from the condos, but I just want to state here that we did hear what they had to say.
Right.
We will bring this to our Public Safety Committee on some of these issues and also Engineering and Public Works. And the last thing I just want to say is the last speaker, I thought, made some statements which I think are unfortunate, that I think doing the resolution we did today is standing up for things that we have an ability to make a change, and that's why we do it. We have to stick up for people in our community, and we have to be the voice. So I don't want people to leave here with that being the last thing said.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that, they have some legitimate gripes. All the things we did tonight are real important locally.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree. And that's why I tried to say to her while she was speaking that it's important for people who live here. So with all that, I'll take a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I would
So
like
moved.
to sing a motion. Second.
You said you were going to do that. Thank you.
I forgot. It was so
There's
long.
a long story about it, folks, because
Okay, we're not
we're
gonna
not going to talk about it. Well, I think it's been
Ms.
moved.
Fredson,
Second.
please take a roll call.
To adjourn. Mr.
Yes.
Staffis.
Yes.
Yes.
Zengel.
Yes.
Furman.
Maybe, yes.
Good night.
Yes, thank you. Good night, everyone.